Get connected, Fitchburg. Sign up for Fitchburg Connect, the city's monthly e-newsletter that keeps you informed about all the events, services, and updates that matter to you. Get it in your inbox once a month. Sign up today to get Fitchburg Connect.
Hi, I'm Jeremy Crosby.
And I'm Nick Boucher. We're your hosts for the program that's all about your city, Talking Fitchburg.
Every weekday, we pull together the news, events, and information you need to stay on top of what's happening in the city of Fitchburg.
Find Talking Fitchburg on cable TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and our live stream on the web. Plus, you can find all our headlines and stories on
Commission meeting for August 18, 2026. The first thing is to call to the order to the meeting at 6:30 p.m. So next is approval of a minute.
I move approval.
Second.
Any question, comment? All those in favor of approving the minutes from the July 21st meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. So next is public appearances for non-agenda items. Do we have anyone on the chamber that wish to speak to a non-agenda item? Okay, here none. We move to agenda item number 5. So we are going to start first. I'm going to open a public hearing and consideration of conditional use CU 266026 request by Bo Stafford to obtain a conditional use permit under section 22-483-1 to allow for a second farm residence on property associated with 4956 Haight Farm Road. Do we have anyone here who wishes to speak on this public hearing? Okay. Here none, I will close the public hearing. So we are going to staff report. Deanna?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Deanna. Sorry.
Sorry, Deanna.
Okay.
So we have Bo Stafford that he wishes to speak in support.
He just have questions. He's just here for questions.
Where is he left?
No, he's right there.
Okay.
Just for questions.
Oh, for question. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And then we also they just wrote in for support.
We have another Mike Croft in support. He registered in support of this matter. Okay, that's it. Okay, sorry, Diane.
Okay, we'll get there. Okay.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Deanna Schmidt, and I am the city planner here at the city of Fitchburg. Before us, this next item is a conditional use permit for an agricultural property. This is a property located at 4957 Haight Farm Road. The applicant's property is zoned ag transitional, and the applicant is requesting a conditional use permit to allow a second farm residence. The second farm residence would be a home for the applicant's father, with a proposal to move an existing home from the Lacey Farm on Muchler Road. The proposed house would be located just to the west of the existing house and garage, and they've also already moved a garage to this location. Council approved ordinance 2026 008 in May of 2026, which created the conditional use for a second farm residence in the exclusive ag zoning district. And I mentioned that this is ag transitional zoning. The ag transitional permitted uses, conditional uses, and dimensional standards are exactly the same as exclusive agriculture. The only difference between those two zoning districts is exclusive agriculture is for those farms and lands that are identified on the farmland preservation map. So the ordinance changes in May of 2026 allowed a conditional use permit for the second farm residence. that conditional use permit may be granted to allow the second farm residence if the home is occupied by the owner or operator of the farm or a parent or child of the owner or operator of the farm. So staff understands that this second farm residence would be occupied by the farm operator's father, and therefore staff believes that and staff recommends approval with a total of 6 conditions. And happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any question, comments? Did you discuss this in Ag and Rural? Okay.
Yes, they approved.
They approve? Okay, thank you, Shelley.
I'll move approval of conditional use 266026 with the 6 conditions outlined by staff.
Second.
Okay, any additional question, comment? Here none. All those in favor of the conditional use, CU 266026, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Okay, thank you. So next is item 5B. I open a public hearing and consideration of rezone RZ 266126 Tracy Way multifamily request by Tammy McCullough. Thank you. Agent from E.J. Plesko and Associate to rezone property from PDD SIP, that is a planned development district, a specific implementation plan, to a PDD-GIP, that is a general implementation plan, to allow for a multifamily residential development on property along Tracy Way Drive, Lot 1, CSM 15059. So do we have anyone who want to speak on this? I have one person. I am calling to Bill Jetzer, who wishes to speak. Is this one in support? Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
it's very, very binary on the
You have 3 minutes.
3 minutes, yes. So Fitchburg needs more affordable housing. This project will bring more affordable housing. I'm disappointed that the total number of units is so low. This is going to work out between the 2 buildings to something like 26 units per acre, compared with, just a block up on Fish Hatchery Road, the Bowman Plaza is going to be 110 units per acre or something like that. So again, I'm in favor of more housing. Anything we can do to increase the density in this area that is served by transit and future BRT. It's right next to the Fitchburg Ridge Shopping Center. It's right next to the Hosta-Hochi. This should be one of our highest density areas of the city. It's one of the most amenity rich. We need to put as many people as possible there.
Thank you, Bill. Okay. So I'm going to close, and then I'm going to allow you later to talk, okay? Okay. Anyone else want to speak in this public hearing? Okay, so I am closing the public hearing, so we're going to a staff report.
All right, the applicant is proposing 2 4-story buildings with a fitness center, management office, club room, and space for recreation. Once completed, the proposed development would consist of 140 units leased at 30 to 80% of the Dane County median income. This property did receive PDD SIP zoning approval by council in March of 2022 for a previously proposed multifamily market rate development. The PDD GIP proposed by the applicant encompasses the entire current parcel, as a parcel cannot be split zoned. This parcel is proposed to be split via CSM that will be submitted with the Phase 1 SIP submittal. It is staff's understanding that the current proposed PDD GIP is for 140 units in 2 phases. However, the narrative as it currently stands is inconsistent and requires clarification prior to recordation of the PDD. Per the applicant, the development strategy is to submit the SIP for Phase 1, which includes Lot 1 and the private boulevard, or the western lot. And the Phase 2 building has not been designed nor been through the Wisconsin Housing and Economic Development Authority, or WHEDA, approval process. The site currently, as I mentioned previously, has approved PDD SIP zoning, which was approved in March of 2022. That plan oriented the building to address Traceway Drive, incorporated ground floor walkout units, and included underground parking, resulting in a more defined and active frontage along the corridor. The proposed buildings in the PDD GIP application are instead orientated perpendicular to Traceway Drive. Ground floor walkouts have been removed, and parking is provided at the surface level only. Staff believes the previously approved plan establishes a higher architectural and urban design standard for this prominent corridor and provided a stronger pedestrian-oriented relationship to Traceway Drive than is proposed in the current application. The intention of planned development districts are to allow for higher quality development than is possible in conventional zoning districts. This site, as previously noted, is adjacent to the City of Fitchburg's premier community center, Hostahoche. The previously approved development mirrored the street frontage of Hostahoche with two-story townhomes fronting Traceway Drive that matched the scale of the community center. The applicant states the intention of the currently proposed development is to create an urban feel with the private boulevard. Staff points out that this feel can be created with the development's interface along Traceway Drive without the need to create a private boulevard. One component that the city has required for prior PDD and smart code developments is the inclusion of underground parking. And I'm referring here now to Figure 5 in your memo. Figure 5 shows approved developments both along the North Fish Hatchery Road corridor and a selection of affordable developments elsewhere within the city. The table shows dwelling units per acre and parking per unit for each approved development. Staff notes that each of the approved developments have had covered or underground parking, including the affordable developments. Each of the North Fish Hatchery developments have had a higher density than those in this proposed development. Staff is not aware of recently approved multifamily developments, affordable or market rate, with only surface parking. Staff notes approval of the surface-only parking sets a precedent for the City of Fitchburg, as well as the North Fish Hatchery Road corridor. The proposed development provides 1.1 stalls per unit in total. The city has typically required one covered or underground stall per unit in addition to surface parking in recently approved developments. Given the site's location along North Fish Hatchery Road, the North Fish Hatchery Road corridor, and its proximity to transit, staff believes the 5-acre site is particularly well suited for higher residential density. Concentrating additional housing on this location places more residents near existing transit service, supports transit ridership, and advances the city's goals for transit-oriented development. The proposed development is less dense per acre than recently approved developments along the corridor, as noted in Figure 5. A density of less than 30 dwelling units per acre may not adequately support the urban development and transit goals set out in the city's comprehensive plan and the North Fish Hatchery opportunity analysis. Per the applicant, the SIP Phase 1 project area, or the western portion of the site, will consist of the proposed Lot 1 plus the private entry boulevard. Grading, paving, stormwater, landscaping, and lighting will be completed with the Phase 1 project area. A diagram clearly defining these phase project areas shall be included in the SIP submittal. The SIP submittal will further demonstrate that the infrastructure for Phase 1 will function independently if Phase 2 is delayed. The applicant notes that any storm and sanitary utility lines that may cross the site and serve the neighboring property will be clarified as part of the SIP and CSM submittal. The applicant reports that this project represents a total investment of $22.5 million. It is estimated that this project would have a total assessed value upon full assessment of approximately $9.2 million. Staff notes that this property is located within a TID district. Given the sufficient investment proposed for the site, the resulting assessed value represents an opportunity cost for the TID if the property is not developed to its full potential. The applicant did host a neighborhood meeting on August 11th. Minutes from the neighborhood meeting are included in your packet. Construction of Phase 1 is targeted for 2027 per the applicant, with Phase 2 following approximately 1 year later and timed with the WIDA submittal schedule. Staff does recommend approval of rezone RZ 2661-26 with the 11 conditions outlined.
Okay,
I have a
thank you.
question.
Yes.
The 22 million valuation versus the $9.2 million valuation, is that due to the fact that this is income restricted apartments, and so that limits their cash flow, and they're able to do a cash basis? Thank you.
Because I assume that they are doing the assessment value through income.
Right, so if they do it on the income basis with the cash flow, yep.
Okay, so we have a developer here with us, and then I'm going to open for questions for all of you here. So, hi, David.
Hello, thank you for having me. My name is David Gevers. I'm Executive Vice President of EJ Plesko & Associates. We're based here in Madison. We have been working, I personally have been working in this area on these sites for over 20 years now. I appreciate staff's support of the project. It's probably the most negative comments I've heard about a project that has garnered the support of staff. But I think you bring up a lot of really good points, which I'm happy to talk about here. I think I might start back in 2022, because there was a lot of discussion about the previous proposal that we had here. So, like I said, I've been working on this project, on the rest of the property that we had in the area for a very long time. And we built the Highline Senior Apartments. We previously owned the Pines and the Fairways, which we sold in February of last year. And the Highline we completed in March of 2020. As part of that Highline development, we actually dedicated the land where the Hastahochi Community Center is now located. So that's close and near and dear to my heart, and also something that we care about and want to support. But to get to the project that was proposed in 2022, so, and I don't know how much you guys have talked with developers about what was going on in 2022, but a lot of projects got pulled at that time as a function of a lot of macroeconomic things that were happening in the world then. So inflation was pretty significant. Our construction pricing on that project came in about $4 million higher than we had originally projected it, and we had been checking construction pricing all along the way. And then also, at that point in time, interest rates were starting to go up. So I know that's not necessarily the purview of this body, but interest rates have a huge impact on the viability of projects and the amount of risk that investors are willing to take. And so it was spring of 2022 when our group decided to pull that project and not proceed. It was very tough on me personally. I think that project was the furthest along on a project that I have ever been involved in that did not go forward. So we were about 75% complete on CDs. We had full approvals here at Plan Commission at the City Council. We had lots and lots of meetings with all the different stakeholders. We had all our financing lined up. It pretty much was a shovel-ready project in that spring of 22, and then I got the word that we were not going to be going forward with that. So needless to say, I went to a pretty dark place because I had spent about a year of my life working on that project, and subsequently ended up calling a former professor of mine at the university just to kind of get together and have a drink and ask myself what I'm doing in this world. And I called him and he answered the phone and he said, "Oh, are you calling about the teaching position?" And I all of a sudden had a whole lot of free time, and I said, "Yeah, as a matter of fact, I am." So since that time, I've been teaching in the real estate department in the business school at the university, and so it's sort of the silver lining on what was unfortunately a disappointment professionally for me. What I can tell you is that from that point forward, we've been looking at this site. It's approximately 5 acres. To understand what was going on with that project versus what we're trying to propose today, there's a couple of key components that I want to point out. One, that was a market rate project. It was a different time, and it had a different scope associated with it. And then, of course, we ran into headwinds on the macroeconomic front. That was a little bit challenging. Since that time, we've been trying to figure out what we can do in this location. Highline was our first experience with the Section 42 low-income housing tax credit program. That deal was financed through a mix of 4% state and federal tax credits. It actually was the first project in the state of Wisconsin to participate in the state tax credit program. It's one of the largest tax credit, low-income housing tax credit projects that was built at 160 units. It included housing trust fund dollars, and it included a TIF from the city of Fitchburg, which I believe was the first TIF for a residential project in the city of Fitchburg. So it was a lot of firsts, right? A lot of things were happening there. And for us, it was our first experience with LIHTC. When we opened that in March of 2020, it's a senior housing project. It's restricted to seniors. In March of 2020, it was the absolute worst time in the history of the world to open a senior housing project. So we had about 200 reservations for that project. And when we opened, obviously that didn't materialize because the whole psychology of moving from a home that you've owned for a long time into communal living had completely changed. That said, the project is doing great. And there's clearly a lot of demand for affordable housing. This project that we're proposing right now is a Section 42 family project, so it's for families. We feel like our Highline project is good as far as meeting the needs of the seniors in this particular submarket, and we think that there's a significant amount of demand for family affordable housing. We submitted for 9% tax credits through WIDA in December of last year, went through their second phase of the application process in March, and then were awarded the tax credits in June of this year. To understand the density issue, let me start by saying, nobody wants to put more units on this site than we do. Right? That's how we maximize our land value, right? The more units that go there, the more valuable the land is. The challenge is that when you're working to provide affordable housing, there are certain restrictions that you have to deal with that are laid out by WIDA. So WIDA, Wisconsin Housing Economic Development Authority, that administers the tax credit program. It is actually quite unusual to get a project to work within their parameters. So when you apply for tax credits, it's a really, and I don't know how much you're familiar with it, but it's a really exhaustive application, and you basically try to satisfy their requirements and then maximize the amount of points based on what you're doing in your project. It's competitive, so you're competing against all the other developers, all the other communities, all throughout the state for these very limited tax credits. This project was one of only 4 projects in the entire Madison MSA that received 9% tax credits in this last round. As part of it, typically these 9% tax credit deals restrict the number of units that you can put into the project to 40 to 50 units. So it's a little bit unusual that we actually were able to make it work at 70 units. Now, I don't know the logic behind why WIDA restricts that, and they change their rules every 2 years, so the methodologies change. But that's sort of the reality of the program as it is today. So we were very pleased that we actually were able to make 70 units work within their program and that we received the award. So in our view too, so yes, the first building is only 70 units. We mirror them. I don't know if the site plan is up. Is the site plan up there? Where you can see that we mirror the two buildings. So at the end of the day, there'll be 140 units. The original plan from 2022 had 180 units. So we're approaching that level of density. I believe that we're at 29 or 30 units per acre total. And then compared to what was there originally, right? So we tore down the buildings that were there back in 2007. There were 3 buildings of about 24 units each, so about 72 units. So yes, this project in totality isn't as dense as the one that was presented in 2022, but it is an increase of almost twofold of what was there originally. A couple other items that came up for discussion, the parking. So one of the challenges, right, with affordable housing is how do you finance it? As you pointed out, Commissioner Poole, the value of these projects at the end of the day is worth less than the cost. So when we design Highline, and I encourage everyone to come and visit us at Highline, we're building a market rate building, but the rents are suppressed. So you're paying, cost, but the value is less than, what it would be if it were a market rate building. So, it's very, very difficult. No developer is going to take on that challenge without the tax credit program providing some of that gap financing. Usually, in addition to the tax credits, you need a significant amount of additional support. So that can come in the, if you're in a qualified census tract, which this is not, unfortunately, I wish it were, then there are a lot more resources available to you. There are some secondary financing that you can do, and then obviously the TIF program here at the city, which we'll be applying for and are working with your consultants on. That said, when I look at the cost of parking, right? So when you think about affordable housing, like the nature of affordable housing, having underground parking is a luxury, right? That's an amenity. At the Highline, and it's listed on the chart here that Dan put together, yes, it is affordable, and yes, we included underground parking on that project. What happened with that deal is we ended up pulling the cost of the parking out of the eligible basis for that project, so we did not generate tax credits for the cost of the underground parking. Our thinking at the time was that, okay, in affordable housing, you can't charge your residents anything other than the rent, right? It's capped. There's a maximum amount that you can do. So you can't charge for parking unless you pull it out of the eligible basis and you don't generate tax credits on it. We did that at the time because we thought, okay, this will be a great amenity. We'll have people park there. They'll come in there and they'll use it. And we underwrote, I think it's like 110 stalls, and we underwrote about $50 a month in parking, thinking, okay, this will be easy. We got 160 units. It has not worked out for us for several reasons, because the individuals, our residents who are there, don't want to pay for parking. So we are at most 75% occupied in the parking stalls themselves, and even within that 75%, we have 30% renters who you can't charge for parking regardless, and we also have concessions. So when we've been sort of competing with some of the other senior housing developments over the last year or two that have come not just around here but all over the city, we've had to offer some concessions, and some of those concessions have been free parking, free limited time parking. So for us, the cost that we spent on that underground parking has never materialized. Like I said, we underwrote it at $50 a month back in 2019, and that's still what we're charging today. So long story short, that's an investment that we would never make again. It was a loss for us. You can see on the list there that only one of the projects in the submarket has underground parking that is affordable, and that's Highline that I was just discussing. The other projects that are listed there under the recently approved affordable developments, the first two are going back to 2021 and 2019. So as I mentioned with the LIHTC program, the QAP, or how you qualify for the tax credits, changes every 2 years. So the program today is drastically different from then. And then the other thing to consider there too is that the way that we generate the equity on the tax credits is by selling those tax credits into the marketplace. So we get allocated a certain amount of tax credits over a certain period of time, say for 10 years for federal tax credits. We can take those and then sell them, and that fills the gap between the cost of the project and what it's worth at the end of the day. That's how just the functioning of the financing. The price that investors are willing to pay for those tax credits fluctuates with the market. So the pricing that you might have received back in 2019 or 2021, meaning you could generate more equity and cover more cost, is much different than it is today. Today, if you talk to anybody in the tax credit world, the pricing on the tax credits is pretty horrible, historically. So that's another challenge that we're faced with on cost, particularly as it relates to underground parking. The other thing I would point out for the other two projects that are listed there that are affordable, both of them use Dane County housing funds. That is a program that we have chosen not to participate in for several reasons. And I don't know how familiar you are with those. I think it's great. I wish the county and other jurisdictions would support more affordable housing. The challenge with the Dane County housing funds and some other fund resources out there is that there are requirements and stipulations that come with it. And one of those with those particular funds is that you cannot restrict your approval process in a way that you normally would with apartments. So for example, you have to set aside a certain number of units for previously homeless individuals. You have to provide social services. You have to, you can't deny for criminal activity and a whole host of other things. Now, I'm not saying that there shouldn't be programs out there that are meeting that need, right? There should be. There's obviously a demand for that. It's just not something that we're set up for, and it's not something that we plan to incorporate into this project. So we've been intentionally avoiding those funds. So two of those projects use those funds. And then obviously one of them in particular is a mixed use with market rate. I think, I don't know if this is my time to respond, or
No,
is it okay if I turn over to discuss the actual
I
design?
can open the question now for the plan commissioner, and then, yeah. Oh, okay,
Do you want
yeah, we can
just
do
a
that. Yeah.
short one to
Okay,
kind of
yeah.
talk about, sorry, I've been droning on. Go ahead. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll speak briefly to the
Yeah.
actual building design as well as a couple site layout elements. So we have the site plan up that is on the screen. So we mentioned the boulevard facing there, and one of the main benefits of that is pulling some of the traffic and allowing the mass of the building to be broken up. So we're still holding Traceway with both Phase 1 and Phase 2, but allowing a little bit of variance in the same way that you would see with different roof plans and conditions like that. We chose to address it this way. So as we can see, and like David mentioned with affordable, it's impacting the rent. But in our case, we aren't impacting in terms of material palette. It's the same materials that we would use on a market rate project. And that's really important, both for equitable design as well as just the design for this project in general. So we're showing a strong masonry base and holding that corner and the line along Traceway. as we turn into that boulevard. And it also allows us to maintain that landscape and the grading buffer along Traceway, which does run up around 8 feet from the existing sidewalk now to where our finished floor for the first floor entrance is currently proposed. And this does factor into the main building entry, which I'll just jump to right here. This is the inside of the building, and this is our accessible entry, and this is mainly because we're coming in at grade from there. And the benefit of that is it allows us to have adjacency to the parking that is pulled off from the street. So the building itself is screening the parking that's on the surface. So while we don't have underground parking, the parking that is provided is generally screened from Traceway and Fish Hatchery. Going back there, we can see the boulevard. Another big benefit, in my opinion, of the boulevard is allowing that row of trees and to create a little bit of a sense of community for both of these phases of the project and phase one. So being able to create that experience within here that would not be an opportunity if we ran the building phase all along Traceway. And also it's seen in this view, and just highlight a little bit more here, still wanting to call out the south entry that do face Traceway, having that as a usable node and also a design element. So we're breaking up the roof line. You have the different masses with different parapet heights, as well as introducing the pitch parapet at the corners, both at the corners there, and you can see in the background there, we have two sets of pitches that face Traceway, as long as a set of the pitches that face towards the boulevard. So that's calling out really the two main orientations of the building. And then we're carrying that element down to that south entry with a scaled down version of that. So while it's not the main entry, where our lobby is located, it's still very prominent and visible from the city street and connects to the city sidewalk. I think that really wraps up design elements in a broad sense. So there's questions in that or just in general. So,
Okay, thank you. I will ask for questions here and comment, and then
Down
Yes.
here? I have a lot of questions, actually.
go ahead.
I have questions about the parking. The first one I'll ask you is a site-related one. It looks like Phase 2 does not have ample space for 70 parking spaces. How do you plan to get to 70 surface units for the second phase?
Yeah. Great question. We are looking at that. So I think the original plan didn't accommodate 70 stalls, but our SIP application, which we submitted yesterday, does.
But what about Phase 2?
What's that?
What about Phase 2?
Yeah, for Phase 2.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't remember the exact numbers. I'm not ready to talk on the SIP just yet, but it will. It's a minimum of I want to say, isn't it like 106, 150?
156.
156.
It maintains the 1.1 parking ratio that we presented here, but it does utilize more of the lot to the north to accommodate that ratio for the second building as well as the first building. Because the first building, the first phase includes the boulevard, and there's parking, parallel parking on both sides of that boulevard.
I'm looking at where the entrances are. That's a long walk for a lot of people, especially a mother that might have 3 children in tow, carrying a car seat and trying to get to a car or trying to get back into the apartment building with groceries. I really have a problem with a family building not having underground parking, and, you know, especially in a busy area like that, it just doesn't seem like it's conducive to a healthy family. I really like the boulevard, I will tell you that, because I like the trees. And I think that makes a big difference. I think children need to grow up with trees and grass around them, and I really do appreciate that. I really wish there would be a way we could get rid of the whole parking across the north side and put another building in to get the density up, and maybe be able to use some of that revenue to pay for the underground parking in the buildings, or at least offer some so that when you've got 3-bedroom apartments with 5 residents in them, you probably have 2 people working. They probably don't work 8 to 5 jobs, so busing is going to help, but it's not going to help a lot. And I actually live in a neighborhood that has a whole lot of apartment buildings in it that were built in the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s. None of them have underground parking, and the streets are choked all the time with overflow parking all over the place because the lots aren't big enough. And I'm just really worried about setting this precedent, because if we approve it for this, for an SIP, we will have to approve it for everyone else that wants to not have underground parking. And I will acquiesce to you. I think when I was on Plan Commission before, the quoted rate for an underground parking space was about $20,000 to $40,000 depending on the building. What does that run now for a space underground?
Yeah, so I share your sentiments. I would, all things being equal, I would want underground parking here too. Unfortunately, we have to make choices, right? Mm-hmm. So if we want to provide affordable housing, then we're not able to do it because of the cost that you mentioned. So yeah, it would be, it varies. It depends on the soil conditions and everything that's going on and how the building's arranged and how efficient it is. But yeah, I think that's a reasonable range, that $20,000 to $40,000 per stall. So you're talking about at least another $2 million of construction cost.
Right.
So what I would say is, this location is unique, right? This is an infill location. This is not a greenfield site. It's perfectly located, for the BRT that's on its way, and for other transportation options. Our expectation, so right now, our goal is to provide 1 stall per unit, right? That's sort of typical in our world of what you're seeing these days. The other thing that I would just point out that is sort of special to this location, and the fact that it is, because you mentioned safety and having kids, et cetera, is that because this is a family project, I just think that this is a great location for affordable family housing, because it's located right next to the community center where they can receive, services and activities and go and enjoy, and participate there, where they don't have to cross a busy street, or they don't have to get a ride or somehow else, get themselves there. I think it's a way to support, not just the activity at the community center, but for the residents that are going to be living in this area.
Can I ask one quick follow-on question to that? I mean, have you entertained the idea of a second swath of reserve spaces for people who have kids under a certain age or something like that? I mean, obviously you have the disabled spaces first, but then, at our daycare, we've got the first 3 spots are reserved for people with, kids in the first 2 classes, right? Because they're young enough, kind of thing. And you're carrying in a car seat and stuff like that. I mean, is that something that would be doable? Is that something that's been entertained?
We haven't done that in the past. I can't say that. We've done it on certain projects where we'll have reserved spots for like prospective renters. But I think that's a great idea. You see that around for expecting mothers or seniors or otherly abled in any way. But I like that idea.
Yeah, I mean, I completely, I see all sides of this, and I understand the, having to make concessions and having to split it. But I think everything we can do I agree with Carol in the fact that there's a security piece, there's just a physical ability piece, there's all kinds of things that come with having to, make that real for families and having to make it something that is, doable and all of that. So I do think that some type of concession or some type of planning around that would be helpful.
Okay. Yeah.
Any other question? I have a question too. Okay, go ahead, and then I'm gonna. Okay. So I echo the sentiment of the people here about the density and the surface parking. I don't like to see surface parking. We are practically asking every developer that come in front of us to have some sort of underground parking. You mentioned that you are going to apply for TIF for this to the city, and maybe that one is something that we can discuss too. That maybe, if the city is going to provide TIF, we can put condition of underground parking. That is something to consider. But my other question is, what happened? You said that you are applying with a tax credit for the second building. What happens if you don't get those credits? Are you planning to build that building, or what is, what happens if you don't get that credit? What is going to happen with the second building?
That's a good question. I think, so a couple things. One, in my experience, when you've had projects that have received tax credits that have a second phase to them, it seems like they tend to get the tax credits because the WIDA sees that and they know that it's operating. So that's my expectation. I also know how our project has scored. And because the QAP lasts for 2 years, if we submit with this application, I know that we're going to have a competitive application. So I feel very confident about it. But to your question, the world changes, things change. I think that obviously it would be zoned for that building, as it's shown, for 70 units in a mirrored building, and we would try to make that work.
Can you build that as a market rate apartment?
It's hard to answer that question just because I don't know what the world is going to be a year or two from now. I think there's always a possibility that we would build that as a market rate. I mean, we do market rate, projects, all over the place. So yeah, that's a possibility.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we certainly wouldn't want to not build something.
No, I know, but yeah. Okay. Shelley.
Well, I actually had the same question. You are before us to provide 140 housing units, and really the only thing before us is 70. So it seems in my mind that we're being asked to approve 70 units for a 5.5 acre site, almost a 5.5 acre site. And I recognize what you just said. You think you'd have a leg up in the next round, but it's competitive, and you don't know that. So I'm a little confused if we're really approving 140, PDD with 140 units, or if we're really approving a 70. Okay. Oh, I guess Deanna's going to answer my question.
In order, this rezone is for the entire 5 acres. And what staff noted in our memo, that there was some confusion about within the application materials, whether they were seeking approval for the 70 or the 140. Staff is under the assumption that they're seeking the approval for the 140. So this is planned development district. We are not going to split zone an existing parcel. So this is a 5 acre parcel. So staff's assumption is that we are rezoning for the 140 acres.
I think that is what you're asking us to do, but the reality is you only have a commitment, and you are only committing right now to build and showing us plans for a building with 70 units. And if our concern is, the density of the area, I think 140 units is, I think it's actually more 27 DUA instead of 29, but which is like half the average of all of the other housing projects on Fish Hatchery. So, I mean, it's very much smaller already. And then if we know we're getting 70 units, but we don't know what else we're getting down the road. That's a big concern to me. I might be willing to give up some density to have affordable housing because I think we really need it. I also think it's important to have affordable housing on a transit line. I know we want high density and we want people living on transit lines. I think it's really even more important to have affordable housing on transit lines. But I'm not sure exactly what we can feel guaranteed that we're getting with this project at this point. So one question I have is, how long does your approval for phase one last?
So, great question. So a couple things. The GIP in front of you right now is for the entire site because the site hasn't been split yet. So our package that we submitted yesterday for the SIP includes a CSM which splits it in two. So the SIP that you'll see next month will be for a 70-unit project on half of the 5 acres. Today, we're talking about 140 units on the full 5 acres. It's just like if you had a master development or master plan of some farm somewhere and you went out and you did a plan on it and you said, okay, we're going to put the library here and we're going to put the houses here, we're going to put the apartments here and the doctor's office here. Well, you wouldn't necessarily come in with the whole thing at one time. And so that's just the approach that we're taking.
Right, but in that case, you're in control of it. You're not in control of phase two if you're looking for WIDA credits.
You're talking about the prospect of it getting built. So I guess to answer your question, yes, right? I'm not in control of what WIDA does in November when we submit the application. But if we don't go forward, then there's going to be nothing there, right? We won't have the 70. And it gets to your other point in terms of the time frame. So the way the tax credits work is we have until November 30th to have our zoning and financing in place. And if we don't do that, then we'll lose the tax credits.
Okay.
I think the concern that I can sense from some of the commission is that if the second building doesn't happen, so we are stuck here with a building with 70 units in a prime area where I firmly believe that we need to put all the density that we can in this transit-oriented corridor, and we are bringing only 70 units. That one is a concern that I think some of these plan commission, I sense, you know what I mean? Okay.
For the fall WIDA application, you said that November is when the application for the second building is going to be due. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. When is the announcement for those tax credits?
March.
June of next year.
Oh, June.
Oh, so it's a full.
Yeah.
It's a long time.
Yeah.
And you presumably would start construction on this first unit, this first building,
The
long
first,
before we
first
were
quarter
notified.
of next year, yeah.
Okay, so the construction would start. So there is you're not going to find out about the next building before you would start construction on the first one.
Right.
Construction start first.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to clarify that, but
Yeah,
I'll let you keep asking questions.
Okay, who has another question?
I have more.
Oh,
Does,
okay,
does
go
the
ahead.
boulevard
Okay.
get built fully in phase one?
Yes.
Both sides of it?
Yeah. And the parking on both sides and the sidewalks.
Is the boulevard private?
Yes. And just a little bit about the boulevard too and the spacing of the block there. So the original design back in 2022 had sort of, it kind of ran the whole length of that. To be honest, with Highline, it's very similar, right? It runs the whole length there across the street. And the reality is, when you think about like walkable areas, in a previous life, I was an architect and worked in school with an urban planner in Pasadena, California called Stefanos Palazoidis, so Mullen Palazoidis, and they were like the founders of the Congress for New Urbanism. And I remember spending most of my time there just working on street sections. So the whole theory behind it was that the street sections is the section experience that you have of the street is what determines its walkability more than anything else. And so the height of the buildings, the width of the sidewalk, how is the landscaping done, is there a boulevard, is there parking, is it slow, is it fast, all those things give you that sense of when you're walking in a place and you're like, yeah, I like walking here, this is enjoyable, this doesn't feel like I'm out, in the suburbs. So that's kind of one of the impetus behind the boulevard is that it's creating that street section, you have the landscaping and the trees down the middle of it, and then also having two buildings instead of one, you're kind of creating that sort of natural rhythm of like a block that you would have like in a more urban, walkable experience.
And from a design perspective on it, from previous comments, we've done our best to mitigate the drives off on the ends of the site and have those primarily as just fire access drives that are needed for fire truck access. But trying to go back to your comment on families and the importance of that and trying to create a sense of community within here. That does provide, and something we got from the neighborhood meetings and feedback from community members of them feeling relieved that the traffic that's going into this development will have sort of its own space versus Traceway as a whole. So both that aspect of it, but then also just giving a little bit more identity to residents of this area.
I think it will be nice to, if you can incorporate in that boulevard some seating, benches.
Yeah.
Because I know that people that live in the Highland, they bring their chair to that side, and
yeah.
So I would
I've
think
seen
we
that.
need to provide us some seating arrangement there too in that boulevard. I have seen that in some boulevard in other places that they have that. You have the tree, the seat, that would be great.
Yeah. That's a good
When
idea.
WIDA scores your application for the fall, does having a PDD GIP for the property that lays out, does that score higher, or does having a complementary building score higher on the application?
That's a good question. I do not have the answer to that. I know that you have to have the zoning in place, but that it's generally like sort of just a general zoning, like you can put residences here. I think the fact when you say scoring, I don't know. That's a good. I'll have to follow up with you on that one.
Yeah, I'm just curious.
I think anecdotally, from what I've heard, is that yes, it has an impact. I don't know.
What numerically
if
that
there's
would
like
be.
a specific scoring category that says, okay, is this the second phase of a project or something like that?
Yeah. In order to get higher density, did you consider lowering the average AMI? Because I understand that there's the density depends on the range of AMI, and I know you did 30 to 80. Yeah.
So
but if you reduce it, doesn't the density bump up, or density benefits?
So the density is, and I don't know why they do this, but WIDA caps the number of units. Like, if I went in there and asked for a 100-unit affordable project, it would get rejected. So, and I don't know why they do that. I don't know if they're trying to spread it out or they don't want larger projects. I don't know what's driving that decision. But I know that, when we ran the model and we ran the tally of these 100+ categories, for points, we were able to accommodate at the maximum the 70 units.
Okay, so you felt that you were doing the highest density with affordability that was
Absolutely,
possible. There was no other scenario upon which you could bump up the density.
No,
based on...
and the AMIs don't necessarily impact it. The AMI, so for us, the entire 100% of the units in the building are affordable. So all 70 units are affordable, and they'll range from 30 to 80% of county median income. They average to 60. It's very similar to the High Line. It's the same sort of scenario at the High Line. But you can't. I can change those. It has residual effects on your points and stuff like that. But you can change those totals, like how many units at each income level, but it always has to average to that 60. And then sometimes there's requirements to have a certain number of 30s and et cetera, et
That's
cetera.
crazy. Okay.
But it wouldn't increase our density.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just a thought too. Have you considered renting the Highline spaces, the underground spaces, to the people across the street?
Ooh, I like that idea.
Because some people might want underground parking.
Ooh, that's
They
a
might
great
have an
idea.
option. Just a thought. And then I would say too, this has a really good bus service in this area. You have the B line that gets you downtown, and you have the H line that you can walk to on Post Ride that will get you to the west side. And there might even be other lines that I just have personally taken both of those lines. So, and I know they're good. So I do imagine that people will be able to forego a car, either no car in the household or just a single car, because the bus service truly is going to be. And those are both, I believe those are both fixed lines too, because they're letters instead of numbers. So they're going to be.
Did they go to the
all day.
hospitals?
I think the B line connects to a line that would take you down to the UW hospital. I'm trying to remember where the B goes. The B goes on West Wash, I think. Anyway, it gets you close. I don't know if it
And I
gets you right
think
in front of it.
sometimes when we talk about bus service, I don't know if you've ever done the exercise of sitting down and writing down 10 places you go a lot for appointments. And then you look at what the difference is between driving there and taking the bus there and how long it will take you to get the bus there. I know people that can't go downtown to go to Dane dances because they don't know if they're going to if they miss that bus, they're stuck downtown.
Yeah.
So even though we have good bus service, the shape and dimensions of this city and Madison are to the point where it works good for some things if you can really plan. Like if you work at 7 in the morning and you're done at 4 and you know you don't have to worry about, oh gosh, what if I have to work late? And then you're stuck there till 7 and now you got to wait 2 hours for a bus and your kid's at daycare. What do you do?
Yeah, I agree.
mean,
I agree. It's a difficult proposition.
It really is.
I think most families are forced into a position where they
I think
have
if
to do
it's
that.
two grown-ups, no kids, and you can, you have infinite free time to do all of your appointments where it doesn't matter if it takes you 2 hours to get to the dentist and 2 hours to get home, which if you start looking at the realities of that, yes, we have good bus service, but a bus doesn't really replace a car in a suburban city.
Yeah, and I understand that, absolutely. I agree. But I think some people in these price ranges they're not going to have the choice to have 2 cars. Like they aren't going to actually be able to afford 2 cars.
That's our view too. Our 30s and 50% renters are unlikely to own a car.
Yeah, that's like obviously very inconvenient for them, but also just a reality that I think is faced, and where I'm less concerned about the parking ratio at that point, especially if you could potentially use the High Line as some additional overflow if there is that. Sorry, I have one more thing. I was glad to see the neighborhood meeting summary. You had a good turnout. It sounds like, obviously there were concerns, kind of the standard concerns you hear about with additional buildings, but it sounded like it was overall positive meeting. Anything else you want to say about that?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was, so there were a lot of residents from the High Line, so it was great to hear from them. They're very vocal, and we talked a lot about the High Line and our staff, and there's always things that are going on with any apartment complex. So it was great. It was a very lively discussion. They had lots of questions. We talked about the tax credit program and how the property across the street is going to differ from High Line. The general sentiment from them was just they wanted to make sure that there was not more density on the property across the street. That's actually what they were asking for. So you guys can fight it out with our residents at High Line. But just because that was their concern, and then they wanted to know if there would be a priority list for High Line residents for the new building, and 2 of them indicated that they wanted to move into the new building, which is similar to the response that we got when we had our neighborhood meeting on the High Line. I mean, there's just such a huge demand. I mean, all these issues that you guys are bringing up from a planning and from a design and from an urban development standpoint I'm with you on all of those. I just think that there's just such an enormous demand for affordable housing right now. I mean, if you look at the market study and you look at, it's extensive. When you are proposing a new project, you have to submit a market study to, kind of prove out the demand to WIDA. And a typical metric that you use in there is like, what's the penetration rate? Like how many of, potential affordable housing family, do you have to successfully get to your project, of who's out there, and the penetration rate on for this site in this location with the way things are right now in the general area, it's like so small. I mean, it's less than 1%. Of the potential demand is what you would need to do to fill the building.
I have 2 final thoughts.
I have a question. So.
I would encourage you to reach out to your state legislature, your state legislator. Randy Udell represents this area. Tell them about this problem with WIDA, because it seems ridiculous to me that we face this. Like, let's start talking to our state legislators about this. Yeah. And then the last thought is, I also work in affordable housing. I work for Habitat for Humanity. It's a very different model, but understand some of the very, very challenging nature of building affordable housing. And so I think the lower assessed value, when we're building affordable housing, we're going to have to accept lower assessed value. Yeah. And I think that's a perfectly fine compromise to make. And I just want to make sure that I say that. And the other thing is, I appreciate you going into detail about why you are so low density and why it's surface parking. I know that took some time, but I appreciated the context because that obviously was a concern of everyone and a concern of mine. But I do feel like we're put in positions a lot where we're faced with compromises in order to get affordable housing. And sometimes you just have to make those compromises in order to get a building realized. I think maybe we should work on getting the state to change some of those regulations because I think it's absurd that we can't make these choices as a community if we want higher density. I'm sure that there was a reason they put that into place, but it seems like maybe we should make some changes. But
I guess, but we keep talking in circles here. What is it about the other low density or low income housing that has far higher density, has underground parking? Why is it that this is the only site that this can't happen? Like
those other
my
sites
job
are
here is not to worry about the financials. It's to plan for the city, and this is we just keep going around and around that we don't want to have surface only parking, and that this should have a higher density given the location.
The other sites are not affordable.
No, we have a couple, yeah.
Like Oak Ridge has underground parking, is also affordable. I don't understand why we should be making such like, I don't want to say sacrifices, but really bending what we usually would abide by because, I don't know, this lot has proven difficult apparently, but otherwise we don't do this and we haven't done this is what I'm trying to say. You look at these other ones that staff has put together as comparisons and it's far higher DUI, so I don't know why we can't here.
Have you considered a TIF request?
Yeah, he's going to do it.
Yeah, so we've submitted a request, and we met with Ellers.
So it's for the project as is, though. It's not to add
It's for the
new elements
project
to
as
the
is.
project.
Yeah, if the city wanted underground parking, it would be a slightly different request. But to speak to your comment, and I mentioned it a little bit. So some of the projects that were outlined here, there are components of those projects that are different than what we have in this location, in addition to just their general location, right? I mean, it's a different market, the Oak Ridge property, than where we are. And so you have different factors that are coming into play as far as affordability and what people are willing to pay and, all of that. But that's where you get into, so for example, for the Oak Ridge property, they're proposing 180 units, they have 156 covered parking, but I believe 100 of those units are market rate. So it's just, again, it's a different animal, it's a different program, it's a very different financing component, it's a different risk profile for the investors that are doing that. And in that market, on Nesbitt, where that property is located, that may be great, that may work just great. The other component there was the use of those Dane County housing funds, which we've been avoiding on this site.
Okay, I have a question on the general implementation plan in page 9. You talk about park and open space goal number 1. So you said this project will provide park space to help meet our outdoor recreation needs. Can you explain me which are those park space or amenity that you're planning to incorporate, or you are counting on the host-to-host chip for all the park amenities?
Which page are you on?
9.
Page 9.
In the in this one.
Page 9.
Which item on page 9?
Yeah, which item?
Well, I don't know, it's 9 in mine, so.
Just page 9?
Page 9, but which goal item?
Is utilities goal number 2, and then after that is park and open space goal number 1. And then follow that is transportation 1. I don't know, I print this from the packet, so. So you found it? This one is in the GA, the one that you presented, is in this packet.
It's in that packet on page 9.
Is there a revision date on that cover, Julia?
I don't know.
It would be on the very front page and on the bottom lower right. If it has,
July 26.
okay, but there's no August 11th or August 10th date on it. Then you have the original submittal. We were asked to submit a revised one, and that particular statement was removed
So, okay.
per
so-
comments from the staff.
I had the same question about it.
So the one that is in the packet is what? Is the one that I printed is old?
The one that in the Plan Commission packet is the one we're looking at right here. It is the updated one. I don't know, did you pull it from council?
Yes.
Yeah. That's the old one.
Okay, I'm sorry. So there is no park and open space goal in this one?
Right, because that was part of the previous project where that lot was sold to the city.
Okay, but so I think you
dedicated.
need to add some seating arrangement there in the back. You know, you have some green areas. It would be nice to add some, benches, something like that.
Okay.
Any other question, comment? Yes.
I have a question for staff. If we approve this, do we set a precedent where we have to accept all apartment buildings now with no underground parking? Because saving that kind of money, every developer from a 12-state radius is going to want to come build apartments here because they don't have to go to that expense.
In my estimation, it does set a precedent. Plan Commission could certainly have different expectations for different projects. There's no particular requirement.
Is this going to require a change to the SIP zoning general description and everything, or no?
No.
Okay.
It will not.
So picking up on that, it's appropriate for us to say that we're approving the surface because it's affordable housing? Because I know there's state limitations on what municipalities can do.
I think because of the restriction that he has with the tax credit is one. But also, I want to be honest with you, David, if you are requesting TIF money to the city, we are going to put some conditions on this project. And underground parking could be one of those. So I don't know, you're open to that or no, but.
Yeah, and
Take away from low-income renters is underground parking. And I think it will go away if we set this precedent. That's what my worry is.
Yeah, we've had some very preliminary discussions with the city about if there was additional funding available for underground parking, that could be a possibility. It's like I said, the financing for these type of deals, in order to, it's like with anything, right? You have to sort of pick and choose what goals you're going to be satisfying. I mean, no single project can satisfy every municipality's objectives. So with this project, yes, this is an affordable project. That's what we're trying to do. It's infill. It's on the bus line. It's adjacent to the community center for affordable families.
No, I think that, my personal opinion is, this is affordable housing. We need more affordable housing. Yes. This is the right location to put because it's a transit-oriented corridor. Yes. My concern is we can have better density. Yes. The underground parking missing is one of my concerns. You know what I mean?
Me too.
So, okay. Okay, because we already talked for an hour or more, and we have a long agenda. So, any other comment, question, concern, and then?
Can I just ask if anybody else is concerned that right now we are only building 70 affordable units?
Yeah, it's a concern because I asked the question, what happened if
Right.
For me, the other concern is what happened if you cannot build the second building and then we are stuck with 70 units in this prime site. You know what I mean?
It would be 70 on just the 2 acres, though.
Yeah, I know, but.
Yeah. And then we would have the other acreage that, we're in the business of building stuff. So we're not in the business of holding on to vacant dirt. So no one would be more incentivized to build on that second parcel than us.
Yes,
and that's what I would say.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
Yeah, that Oak Ridge parcel was
What?
originally all affordable.
Yeah, it's
The
all
JT
affordable.
Klein, and then
Yeah.
it became half affordable, half market rate.
It's affordable senior housing.
It's half market rate now, right?
It's Right now, as approved in the zoning, it's 80 units of senior affordable and then 100 units of market rate.
But
It
we are not
might
building.
change.
We are not building. They are not building the 100-unit market rate now. They're building the 80.
Yes, you are correct there. What's under construction is the 80 units
The 80
senior.
senior affordable. Okay, so I need someone to move this. Any other comments or concern? Jason, how do you feel? Because you haven't talked about.
I guess, have you guys looked at doing like 3 buildings there and going back 3 times for WIDA to just increase the density with the depth of the lot, or are you guys stuck on the 2 phases for the project?
Yeah, we haven't considered 3 just because of how it lays out there with the units. I think we would start to run into some land constraints, especially as it relates to some of the stormwater management.
So the parcel the north of this site, you also own that parcel, isn't it, on the back, on the north?
So if you're looking at this site plan right now, everything that is green or building, we own.
Okay.
It's kind of a weird trapezoidal shape, but yeah, that is all our parcel up there as well.
And are you planning to bring that landscaping when you build the 2 buildings, or that one is only there for?
It'll be landscaped, and we'll talk about that more in the SIP of how we're going to use that space, because there are some undergrounds along the east property line that we have to accommodate and deal with. So, but yeah, it'll all be part of the final project. Right now, there's a portion of parking lot that is on our parcel that was originally part of the fairways, which will be removed. And then also there's an old shed there that will also be removed.
Okay, any final question, comments? Okay. I need someone to move this.
I'll move approval of rezone RZ 266126 with 11 conditions outlined by staff. You can still vote no if you can get a second.
Okay. Okay, since I'm going to do roll call.
Okay. Carol Poole?
No.
Josh Knackert?
No.
Jason Rice?
Yes.
Shelley Malowski? Stephen Heller?
No.
Gabriela Gerhardt?
Yes.
And then Julia Arada-Frada?
Yes.
So the item does pass.
But I hope you incorporate all our concept.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so thank you. So next, we are moving to item 5C, is an ADR for the City Hall campus, request by Dawn O'Crowley, agent. I am fine there?
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Agent for the City of Fitchburg to obtain architectural design review approval for the renovation to the City Hall campus on property associated with 5520 Lacey Road. Do we have anyone who wishes to speak on this now? No. So, we have Dawn. Okay. So, okay, Dawn. Hello?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Adam, you're going to do like an introduction about this project? Or you're
We were just going to have...
Okay.
We're going to have staff kind of give the brief overview, and then we're available to answer any questions.
Request is for exterior renovations to the City Hall campus, which includes the entry plaza, landscaping, and a new staff entrance and patio on the west side of the building. The original community center was constructed in 1988, with an addition completed in 2011. City Hall and the connecting link to the community center were completed in 1998. A standalone police station is currently under construction just across the street, and the police department will vacate the first floor and basement of City Hall upon completion of the new facility in spring of 2027. The proposed project will reconfigure the former police department entrance on the first floor of the west side of the building to a staff entrance and exit. The existing second floor south entrance to City Hall will be the single point of contact welcoming the public to City Hall. The entrances on both levels of the community center will remain. Improvements to the first floor former police department entrance will minimize the appearance as a public entrance by restoring turf to native perennial mix between the outdoor staff patio and the parking lot. A pergola is also proposed at the staff patio to further reduce the prominence of the former entry tower. An emergency egress door will be added between council chambers and the Jeannie Seelig room with an accessible walk to the main entry. Improvements to the public entrance courtyard will improve landscape, hardscape, and seating. At staff's request, the applicant has provided a demolition plan that includes expanding the windows on the west side of City Hall and replacing the entry doors to City Hall and the community center. The existing police department signage on the west side of City Hall will be removed, and no signage is proposed for the staff-only entrance. The east-facing doors to City Hall will be replaced with windows. The landscape architects met with the city urban forester and naturalist to refine the proposed plantings. This includes replacing the originally proposed aspen grove in the entry plaza with ironwood and pagoda dogwood. The landscape architects also worked with city staff to propose prairie mixes similar to those used in other city restoration projects. Unfortunately, the applicant has not provided updates to the landscaping plans. Therefore, staff has added a condition that final landscaping plans be administratively approved by staff. Staff initially expressed concerns regarding the loss of the serviceberry trees near City Hall entrance. The applicant notes that several existing trees will be impacted by the proposed entry plaza modifications. However, newly planted serviceberries will replace those existing trees. Staff also raised concerns regarding a lack of seating in the renovated entry plaza. In response, the applicant proposes 4 large stone benches between the 2 entrances, in addition to 2 benches at the front of the plaza. Staff bicycle parking was another topic of discussion with the applicant. The parking is proposed in the underground parking area next to the new staff entrance, which is currently utilized by the police department. An updated photometric plan or lighting plan has been provided and is compliant with the city's dark sky ordinance. Existing lighting and parking lot light poles will be replaced, and the staff notes that the height has increased to 30 feet for those poles. Staff does suggest reevaluating the height of the light fixtures, as fixtures abutting residential property should be kept between 20 to 22 feet in height. So staff does recommend approval of the ADR for the City Hall campus with the 6 conditions outlined.
Thank you. Okay, Adam, do you want to add anything? Dawn, do you want to add anything else? I have questions.
No, and our electrical engineers, Grafe Engineering, did look at the reduced pole height and can absolutely comply with that reduced height.
I think one of the things that we discussed with Adam, with you and Chad, and I think with Dawn, we discussed in the committee of the whole, was to remove this window because we don't use them, and it could be, I don't know why they are still showing up in the design, and why we are keeping those, because we don't use them.
Yeah, there's 2 issues kind of behind you. One is the heater, if you look behind you on the floor. I'm not sure if that, I'll be honest, I'm not sure if that heater is even working.
No, they
That's
don't work
That's
because it's
that's
very
part of
cold
the
in
draftiness issue. Just that's kind of getting to the problem up there. But and Dawn can kind of speak to the windows itself. I think the challenge is how do you take those out and then make them look decent from the outside, because you do have that you face the library. So one of the ideas we've looked at internally here is looking at some panels that would actually close. And as part of that, we would close the panels. That would help kind of take care of the draftiness of the windows. But just taking the windows out and then putting spandrel glass in, or something that's not even glass, we're concerned about the look of the outside of the building, how that could potentially impact, especially facing the library. So, Dawn, did I say anything incorrect there, or have I misspoken?
No, that's a great description. So then from the inside, behind you, it would be all solid wood when those panels are closed and that you're in session.
Yeah. Okay.
So it'd be almost like doors that would kind of
All three
slide
windows.
And we can close it?
They can close, and for some reason, if you wanted them open, because we do want to try to use this space more in the future for meetings during the day, we can then actually open the blinds up and have light coming in.
Okay. Okay, no, because that one was something that we discussed, and then voila, they're still here. Okay. Steven.
Question on the landscaping. Are the current trees at like end of life that we're taking trees out to replace them?
We spoke with Anna and our landscape architect, Eamon Farber. The trees that are proposed for removal are only in the entry courtyard. I believe 2 of them are invasives and 2 are service berries. The service berries are being removed so we can adjust the entry walkway to now bring the public and bring everyone to just the south entrance of City Hall, the entrance that faces the library, just to bring everyone to one central entry point rather than both sides of the tower, just to create more hierarchy.
And we're closing off that, so if you came in the front entrance tonight, we're closing off that east door that faces the community center. So then that kind of shifted down. And we tried to cut back on the asphalt or the concrete that's out there right now. We've got a lot of concrete out in that entryway that quite honestly doesn't get used. So we did, part of the readjustment was getting rid of some of that too.
Okay, any other question, comment?
I got another one. What's with you're adding on a door like over here in the front? Because again, you're trying to direct all traffic, and then we're going to add another door to make it just extra fun, or what?
We've actually now taken that off. So we did look at adding a vest. So right now, when you go in the community center, it's not really a true vestibule. So we looked at enclosing the existing kind of outdoor where it's covered with some glass. We ran into some code yes, on the community center side over.
No, I thought the comment was between the Jeannie Stellig and this room, I thought. There's an added egress.
Correct. There would be a door added kind of behind through there. There'd be a door that's more for emergency access purposes.
Why is that? Is it not needed?
That door would allow us then today, rather than everyone being able to exit down through the current police facility exit, because of the redirecting of all public traffic to that main front door of City Hall on second floor, we need to have a second means of egress for everyone from council chambers without now going into the stair tower to the police facility level. So it would be an exit-only door, then having the bringing in the native perennial landscaping. You can see in the first rendering, we're trying to screen that so public understands that that's just an exit pathway that's accessible.
So the door across the way here to the stairwell, that would only be for staff purposes, would not be a public exit. And then to Dawn's point, for code purposes, we had to add a second emergency egress going out this way. That'd be for emergencies only.
And also for safety, something happened here right now. We need to escape or go out, and we need to go that way. And
yeah, there's no quick out of this room if something happened.
Any other question, comment?
I like to switch to some more native plantings. I think we should reduce some of that grass. I think that's,
Yeah.
I don't think it looks nice. I think it looks kind of silly. I think that's more aligned with the aesthetic of our community. So I think that's a really nice change.
100% agree with that.
And I think the patio, I like that we're still planning on the staff patio. I know we talked about potentially optioning that as at the bid in case the budget is too high, but I do like that that's still included. I think it's a really nice amenity for staff. And overall, I just think the design looks really nice and happy with it.
Okay. Can we move with this?
I'll approve the ADR for City Hall campus renovations.
Second.
Okay, so all those in favor of the ADR say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Dawn. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you.
So next we have another ADR. This one is for the Fitchburg Well number 12, request by Chelsea. What? Oh, by Chelsea Wilson, agent for the City of Fitchburg, to obtain architectural design review approval for the construction of a municipal well and park facility on property located at 2765 Wayfair Street. So, okay, let's go with staff report.
Thanks. So the proposed project includes a well house and public restrooms for the adjacent Stoner Prairie Park. The low-density residential zoning allows for utility and government uses as a conditional use, and this project did come before you in July of 2025 and was approved for a conditional use permit and ADR. ADR approvals expire 1 year from Plan Commission's approval, which required the applicant to submit for reapproval, and some minor changes along with that. The well house will be approximately 52 feet by 45 feet in size and includes rooms for the generator, pump room, fluoride, and sodium. The rear of the building includes access to 2 unisex bathrooms available year-round for park users. The building also provides drinking fountains for park users. Since the previous approval in 2025, the open-air shelter that was proposed in front of the bathrooms has been removed. Additionally, the roof has been redesigned and slight adjustments have been made to the locations of the doors to the chemical rooms to give the building a more balanced appearance. A lighting plan has been provided that is compliant with the city's dark sky ordinance, and facade materials include fiber cement siding and stone veneer. The Public Works Department notes that the Assistant Director of Public Works will select final colors for the building, and a metal standing seam roof is proposed. The building does have a generator which will be exercised monthly, and noise levels will not exceed 65 decibels at the property line. Staff notes that the equivalent to this sound would be noise inside of a car traveling at 60 miles per hour, a vacuum cleaner, or general office noise. You may recall some of the discussion in 2025 surrounded a proposed solar array. This solar array is no longer considered as part of the project. The applicant notes that conduits will be installed that would allow for a future solar array to be built. However, the space identified for that solar array may need to be used for additional water treatment facilities. The applicant also would like to note that the designing engineer has estimated that the future solar array would only provide an estimated 2.4% of the required power for this facility. Per the applicant, work is planned to start on the project next month with a proposed completion date of December 2027. So with that, staff does recommend approval of the ADR request with 5 conditions outlined.
Thank you. Comment, questions? This is a well. Okay.
Question about the solar. So the conduit is installed, which I appreciate because that will make it easier in case we ever do want to add it. I don't understand the comment about the roof might need to be used for water treatment. What does that mean?
What? Oh, no, the solar was the solar was not planned for the roof. The solar was planned to the south. The solar array was planned here.
Where?
On the southern part of the site.
Oh.
There's a much larger area there.
Oh, okay.
So would it be possible to put solar on the roof?
I guess we'd have to look at the orientation of the pitched roofs.
A freestanding array on that additional area would only capture 2.4% of the electricity for that building?
I think it speaks to how much power it uses.
I think it takes a lot of power.
Our pumps and our lift stations are some of the biggest
I understand,
energy
but like
sinks.
that, we should be able to get a decent array on that plot of land. That still kind of blows me away. Like,
I can't vouch for it. That's what the engineers.
So I would be interested in that question about if it's possible on the roof, just to see if that's something that we could include in the design. Usually it's not that expensive to include a conduit to allow solar, but it's very expensive to retroactively do it. And so I do think installing the conduit out to the south of the building does make a ton of sense, so that the possibility remains.
Any other question, comments? Okay.
I'll move approval of the ADR for Fitchburg well number 12 with the conditions if they're already noted by staff.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of the ADR for the Fitchburg well number 12, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Okay, so next we are on item 5E. This is a minor PDD amendment, inspiration at Swan Creek CIP, request by Fred De Villers, agent from IP Holdings, LLC, to obtain a minor PDD amendment to allow for the clarification and minor edits to the PDD SIP on property located off East Sherwood Parkway. So we have a couple of people that they want to speak, and then I will call Ron Golesh to the microphone, and then Randy Smith. What is that?
This is the email that we received on Sunday.
Okay, okay. Take your time.
Setting is hard. It's better to get up and move. Press the button so I can start speaking. I got 3 minutes going. So good evening. I'll keep this really short, both because it's a really minor thing in some ways, but also I have 2 teenagers at home that have texted me 55 times about where's the food. So can't help it. I'm here as a representative of the Swan Creek of Nine Springs Homeowners Association. And basically what this comes down to, and I'll try reading it, it's probably easier than sitting forward. This is as part of the minor PDD amendment, obviously. And in there, he's asking for several things as part of the PDD SIP. And there are things in there like designs to be developed, lots 48, 57, allowance of the window wells, and so on. We're not opposed to any of those things. We're opposed to the change that he's asking for, allowance of fencing, with the approval of the Architectural Control Committee. And I'll keep this really short because this could go somewhere else. So the Swan Creek of Nine Springs Homeowners Association, we have an objection to that portion. We believe that the Swan Creek of Nine Springs Homeowners Association covenants and bylaws supersede Lot 1 and 2, whether it's Lot 1, Lot 2, whatever we want to call it, Inspiration Point bylaws. The Swan Creek of Nine Springs Homeowners Association covenants and bylaws state directly the filed copies, not the multiple copies going around, that fences are not allowed. We have no objection to the Inspiration Point bylaws staying a mirrored version, as it was promised to us and to the city when that development was approved. He promised to mirror our covenants, not to make changes, and taking the lead internally as long as Inspiration Point does not violate our covenants and bylaws. And while the developer's attorney may not agree, our counsel is equally certain in our stance. Furthermore, the city attorney states that the arguments between Swan Creek and Inspiration Point and our covenants issues is not a province of the city. Yet here you are, the Plan Commission, allowing your attorney's stance to be violated with this amendment. You're taking a position in this fences. We urge you to defer or have rewritten the portion of 5E that references any changes to the covenants and fences, and we will defend as needed. And we urge the city to not insert themselves at this point in this dispute. It's that simple.
Okay, thank you, Ron.
bet.
Randy, do you want to speak? Okay, come in. Where is Randy? Here. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you for allowing me to speak to the board. I'm the president of Swan Creek Homeowners Association, been president for a number of years. Our position on the Swan Creek of Nine Springs Homeowners Association believes that Inspirian Point shall remain under the Swan Creek of Nine Springs HOA covenants and the bylaws, just as the Gardens, Astor Meadows, Prairie Park, and the Wisconsin Apartments and Swan Creek LLC. This precedence should be honored and considered to not amend the Swan Creek of Nine Springs covenants and bylaws just for Inspirian Point. Everybody else has been following the same rules. Big corporations and big developments. Also, just as a reference and in support of no fences, the newly built out of the condos at Outlot 18 in the Swan Creek of Nine Springs, just north of Lacey Road on Prairie Way, also abided by our guidance. We didn't have to try and influence them. They're not really part of the Swan Creek, but they still abided by that. If you'll drive by there, there are no fences. So any objection to or saying that it's not selling lots, it's depriving them of selling supposedly affordable lots, that's just not the case in that case either. And they're right next door to us, and they're within the Swan Creek. Lastly, if Lot 1 is allowed to have fences, then it's been expressed by other homeowners within Swan Creek that they will have the power to put fences up within the Swan Creek. If that's going to be the case, then we lose our community, our openness that we have established out there as our culture. We currently have removed 7 fences since I've been here to maintain and preserve the open, friendly community we've established within Swan Creek. A number of these homeowners are still staying there too, even though we removed their fences. So again, I don't see that it's a problem in regards to a defense to say that fences should be allowed. A number of, if the fences are allowed in the middle of the Swan Creek Homeowners Association or the Swan Creek development there, this would really ruin the open, friendly community of Swan Creek, not to mention just, out of place. It's right in the middle. And, we already have probably the aesthetics of it as being odd anyway because it's very tight, very close buildings anyway. So to add fences on it is just going to seclude them.
Thank you, Randy. I want to mention that also we received your email that you sent us to us yesterday.
It's the same thing. So
no, but it's good for us because in preparation for this meeting, so thank you for sending the email. Okay, so we are going to a staff report and then we are going to call to Fred. If you want to say something about this or answer question, okay?
Okay. So the applicant obtained PDD SIP in June of 2024 to construct a detached condominium units, a development of 60 units, with a minor PDD amendment approved in November of 2024 to revise the number of units to 57. The applicant is requesting that the PDD SIP be amended to reflect the architectural design of the houses of the lots along Sassafras, that would be lots 48 through 59, the allowance of window wells to be designed into the housing program, and then the allowance of fences with the approval of the Architectural Control Committee. So I'll just underscore, I just want to underscore a couple of things before I go too far into the memo. What we're looking at as the Plan Commission here at the city and staff is the zoning ordinance. We're not writing Fred's covenants. We're not writing Inspiration's covenants or deed restrictions. That's an entirely private set of requirements. The city of Fitchburg does not track all the individual covenants and deed restrictions across the city. I do not have a list of everyone in the city. We do not review them before we issue permits. And so what is before you this evening is just the zoning requirements. It's not rewriting Swan Creek's covenants or deed restrictions. And actually, just to be clear, city staff only reviews private covenants and deed restrictions to ensure that they do not conflict with our current municipal code. We do not review private covenants and restrictions of any developments to ensure that they don't conflict with other private and covenants and deed restrictions. The Plan Commission may consider modifications to the SIP of a property. This would be under section 22603. If in the opinion the Plan Commission that the modification does not constitute a substantial change, then Plan Commission may approve the change at this meeting. If Plan Commission determines that the modification constitutes a substantial change, then the change must be approved through the standard rezone process at subsequent meetings. The proposed amendment is to address, first of all, the residential site design considerations that have become apparent as the first homes within the development have been designed and constructed. The overall development is approved for those 57 units. They do consist of single-family and two-family residential structures. The applicant is not proposing to increase the number of units or change the configuration of the property. The primary requests are changes to clarify the architectural design for the homes along Sassafras. That would be lot 48 and 57. And there's just one of the challenges that have come up here is how to minimize the garages. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. That the applicant is also requesting window wells, and the proposed window well standards would allow for a window well of 24 inches or less. That's just for the natural light within the building setbacks. That is fairly consistent with our current low-density residential, and it would also allow those larger, deeper egress windows to encroach up to 12 inches into the side setback, subject to separation requirements from adjacent window wells. So staff can just, over the last few years, most new home buyers want to have those egress windows. They're standard now. And all this section of code does is clarify what the requirements are. It's more of a clarification than anything. As a standard practice, the city of Fitchburg tries to minimize the impact of large garage doors along residential street. The original concept plans for this development imagined some shared driveways along Sassafras, so 2 lots would share 1 driveway. As design and further construction developed and moved forward, it just became a challenge to do that. So what we've done is work through some design options to minimize the impact of garages along Sassafras, and that's what the results of these designs are. The proposed amendment does not otherwise alter the approved land use or overall site layouts, permitted residential uses, dimensional standards, and continues with the maximum number of 57 units. I will just like to talk briefly in our current single-family zoning ordinance. Much of Swan Creek is zoned low-density residential. Under that current zoning, fences are allowed. However, in this case, Swan Creek's covenants preclude that. And the city of Fitchburg, the planning department actually does not permit fences at all. So that's why staff recommends approval of the PDD, the minor PDD amendment. Certainly understand the challenges with fences. This zoning requirement is not any different from what Swan Creek faces right now, if that makes any sense.
Okay, thank you. I have some question, clarification. Because here we are also, if we approve this, we are allowing fencing, okay? So we are doing that too. So who is the Architectural Control Committee? Is the Swan Creek Association or is? Okay, so I remember.
I didn't get that answer. Who? What?
Is their own subdivision?
It's the Swan Creek.
No. So this one is going to be, so the fencing, if we approve this and someone wants to bring a fence, they need to go in front of you. Okay, because I remember being clear, and some of you were here in Plan Commission when we approved that. We told you, Fred, that you need to follow the covenant of the Swan Creek, and you say yes. Okay, so that one was the agreement. So, and I remember that because it was asked a question, the neighbor asked a question, we asked a question, and I remember clearly that you said that you're going to follow the Swan Creek covenant in this development. I remember that. So, and why, the question is why people want to add fences. There is any, what is the issue? Okay.
Yeah.
Can you say your name and?
Fred DeVillers.
Okay.
Agent
Okay, so
Fred
you
DeVillers.
say that is because of the children and dog. For dog, you know.
Can I make a quick clarification?
Yeah.
So the Swan Creek protective covenants never applied to the commercial lots. Lot 109 to 110 was the former lots of the property of Inspiration at Swan Creek.
Why commercial lot?
I think it's 108 through 117 were the commercial lots originally.
I am
So
confused.
that's going back to an old plat.
Where is the commercial?
I can certainly send you all the protective covenants, and you'll find that I think it's lots 108 and 108 to 117 were not included in the protective covenants.
This is, I mean, I am somewhat invested in this in like a personal sense, but like ultimately the city is not, like we're not involved in this, right? Like but the specific thing that it says in the document is that fences are not allowed except with approval from the Architectural Design Committee, which is a Swan Creek HOA.
No, it's his subdivision.
Oh, so it's the
That one is my
design
clarification.
committee of the Inspiration of Swan Creek,
Yes.
not the Swan Creek HOA.
Exactly.
Is our premise that
Swan
our-
Creek has
I'm sorry.
Swan Creek has a committee,
Yes.
and in their protective covenants, Article 4.07, fencing, fences shall not be allowed without the prior written consent of the committee.
That is
So they have a committee,
Yeah.
and over the last 26 years, they've decided to not allow fences, and I guess in 7 cases, they've told residents to remove their fence. That's fine.
That's
My property
Ron,
My
what's it?
property was originally lots 109 and 110. It was then combined into CSM Lot 1. It's now platted as land condominium units 1 through 57, and the infiltration basins and the private road Inspiration Way are a common element. So the project site itself has never been governed by the Swan Creek protective covenants. The language that I've put in the narrative, and Deanna and I have been working on this for months now, is essentially the same. Fences are not allowed without the approval of the Architectural Control Committee. That's the Architectural Control Committee for my project, Inspiration of Swan Creek.
So this is what my clarification was. It's your subdivision.
Yes.
They have their own. Okay.
Yes.
But I remember, this is what I'm gonna go back, that when you came here way back, you told us that you were planning to follow the covenant of Swan Creek. And they don't allow fences.
Well, they allow fences only with the committee's consent, and they have chosen not to consent.
Well, but
I've had a couple,
that is incorrect.
home buyers that have small dogs and small children, and they've asked for fences.
Okay, so you can, Randy. You can always, you already spoke, guys, so we got your,
Okay, the problem is with covenants, bylaws, they're filed with the state, Register of Deeds. If you don't pull the current versions of it, you're going to be working from versions from who knows where. Our current versions preclude fences. It's not a subject to the Architectural Committee. They're not allowed. So he might just be working from an old version. But it
That's
needs to
fine,
mirror.
but that's for your lots,
Okay.
not mine.
You need to mirror, like you said you would. You pay dues to us still.
Okay, so this PDD amendment is the windows, what is the?
Yes.
And the
The
fencing.
window wells, the fencing, and then the redesign of the homes, as you see here,
So,
along Sassafras.
so the question that I asked you, why you need to install fencing, you mentioned because of the small children and dogs, isn't it?
Correct.
So dogs, you can use invisible fence.
Oh, I've suggested that, yes.
Because I want to tell you, I am surrounded by people in my neighborhood. We don't have fences. We don't allow fences, and open spaces, and they have invisible fences. You know what I mean? So that one, this is what the reason, and safety for the children. This is the other question.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
The document that we have in the packet there's a red line in there, right? And this is what the PDD minor amendment is changing?
Yes, the red light is what's being changed.
Or I guess it's blue lined, but technically, but on the document. But so in the original document, I'm trying to find the.
Yeah.
In the original document that we approved, it says just straight up no fences are allowed.
Correct.
And then this change that we are approving tonight adds the except by approval of the Architectural Design Committee.
Correct.
So, but we don't have to allow that addition, right?
Yeah, I'm going to be honest, Fred, I am in opposition of the fencing, because of the understanding that we had way back about. So I am, and I don't feel comfortable to approve this minor amendment with that language of we are allowing fencing with the approval of the Architecture Control Committee. It's your own subdivision. It's not the Swan Creek.
Correct.
Yeah, so, no. Okay, any question?
So
Comment?
when we approved this, it did say there's no fencing allowed? And why
Correct.
did we do that?
That's what we contemplated at the time.
Because we were incorporating what he was intending at the time. Which I think I've stated in the past, I think that's a problem when we do that. When we put requirements in there that are not required by the municipality, but even though it's what they're proposing at the time, because then we get to this point where they would have had flexibility, and now we have a question whether or not, it should be allowed. So
I think I take your point.
We are learning. Okay. Any other question, comment?
just one question. If we have other projects and there is fencing in there, do we ever say anything? I assume we're just neutral on the issue of fences.
Or maybe
I mean,
we
I
say
know
that
we don't have
need
to-
to follow the covenant of that subdivision. It's up to them.
Well, but we don't have to follow the covenants.
No,
We don't follow
Yeah, we
any
don't-
covenants.
But
Right,
we are,
but
it's understanding that they are going to follow the covenant of the subdivision.
Yeah, but apparently there's a disagreement, what is
Yeah.
the controlling covenant? So
Yeah,
I'm just
I know.
saying, if this came to us fresh, and they said we're going to have fencing, do we ever, I mean, I have seen us comment on the architecture of garage doors and everything, but I'm unfamiliar if we have taken positions in the past about fences.
In none of the PDD zoning that I have come across have we had it spelled out specifically that
Okay.
fences.
Was this done in this instance because we were in some ways cutting this lot out from an existing subdivision?
No. No, I think this was just
Because of
Fred and I working through the overall standards for the neighborhood.
So we probably originally should not have commented on the fences at all.
Yeah, I
Like,
was just going to say.
but we did originally pass a PDD that said no fences are allowed, period.
I think that's a fair statement.
Yes. I remember
Okay.
that meeting.
Yeah, I agree that we shouldn't say anything that's in a covenant, a private covenant, should not be
Yeah.
in our zoning ordinance. Absolutely, I totally agree, because it creates issues just like this. But now if we're changing this, what we originally submitted, then we are commenting on it in a
Put it
very
in there.
specific way.
Yeah, but we
Yeah.
put it in there only because at the time he requested it. It isn't because we as a municipality cared.
Yeah,
And also we requested because there was a group of neighbors from the Swan Creek that they were concerned about.
Okay, that
The
I didn't
subdivision.
remember,
Yeah,
the fence
so-
issue with them.
And you compromise with
Yeah,
the,
so is the
No,
proposal just to
fence.
strike the fence language and move forward with the remainder?
yeah.
I move that.
What are you going to do?
I'll move approval of minor PDD amendment, inspiration at Swan Creek SIP with an update that the modification of the existing fence language be struck from the changes proposed. All
So-
other things remain the same.
I'll second.
Okay. So any question, comment about the amendment?
so just to clarify, that number 4 is now going to read fences
is
are
it?
not allowed, period, like it did in the original one. Is that the intention?
Where is the number 4?
I think we should strike number 4 altogether.
Yeah, Josh, can you clarify?
Yeah, clarify, are you striking number 4 entirely, or are we striking the red line of number 4?
Here's the. I think if you strike it entirely, you're allowing them.
Well, then it comes,
There's no
then it
difference
just
in our-
reverts to the other document. You don't have two documents that have language about fences, because it shouldn't have been there to begin with.
Yeah, I feel like the whole line should be struck. I don't feel like we ever should have done that. Yeah, no.
But then they're allowed to have fences.
Well,
Because we're not, it's not in a
But
document
it's bound
prohibiting
by,
it.
it's bound by covenants that are outside of our control. I mean,
Well,
this is,
right, yeah, I mean,
this is not
after-
something we should be litigating or speaking on, I feel like.
Right, so I think what it says is we're not.
I can't have stuff from that.
restricting them.
We've heard, no, we need to talk through this. I think 4 needs to be struck. I think this is an odd precedent for us to set. I think we should just go back to what we do as a municipality and how we zone.
Mm-hmm.
Private covenants can figure out private covenants.
You know what I am disappointed about? Because he told us that there are not going to be no fences in that.
I fully
subdivision.
understand
it's-
that.
You know what I mean? So that one
I
is-
fully understand that, and hopefully, I guess we'll learn from this, and we won't take people at their words, because we've had a lot of people come forward and tell us things about realtors telling them things and how houses are sold and everything else. And I do. I feel for this. I understand that. It's not our role, and I don't like setting this precedent for the same reason we didn't do this three sessions ago, I didn't want to vote for it 3 sessions ago, where I felt like we were setting precedents we shouldn't set. I don't think we should have this on the books. So I would recommend I'll clarify my move, and Carol can weigh in on how she wants. I'll move approval of minor PDD amendment at inspiration at Swan Creek SIP. However, with the change to the fact that item number 4 will be fully struck.
And I'll second it again.
Okay, how do you feel? Okay, all those in favor of the amendment to the amended CIP, say
He did the full motion, so we're voting on the motion as amended.
as amended, yes,
Yeah.
okay. All those in favor of the amended,
The minor PDD.
amended, as amended.
As amended.
The minor PDD amendment.
As amended, yeah. Say aye.
Aye.
No, because you lied to us, so. Okay, so the motion carry. Thank you. Okay, so next we are on item 5F. Is a resolution R-16826 authorizing the city's request to amend the urban service area for development of the Wisconsin Department of Correction juvenile facility to be located southwest of the U.S. Highway 14 and north of County Highway M. Okay, so we don't have anyone here, so.
Oh, I'm in the wrong one, sorry. Okay, so let me get my stuff up here. Okay.
Oh, okay, I am pissed off with this type.
So, the city of Fitchburg maintains a defined urban service area that generally encompasses the area where the sanitary sewer and water service currently exists or are planned to be provided for new development in the near future. The map below, and I guess I got to go get my ordinance here. The map with the resolution shows the city of Fitchburg's current urban service area, which is located entirely within the northern portion of the city. You can see that in the pink. Amendments to the urban service area are reviewed and approved by the Capital Area Regional Plan Commission. To amend the urban service area, municipality must submit a formal request and application to CARP-C. And in addition to CARP-C approval, the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources, DNR, the Wisconsin DNR, must approve the amendment. City of Fitchburg staff, the Village of Oregon staff, and representatives from the Wisconsin Department of Corrections are preparing an application to amend the urban service area. The proposed amendment would allow the Village of Oregon, just to the south of us, to provide sanitary service to the proposed DOC, Department of Corrections, juvenile facility, and the existing Grow Academy. The proposed juvenile facility would be located on the southeast portion of the city, and you might recall that Plan Commission has approved several items for the DOC. A little bit of background, there is a current urban service area shown in yellow. In 1984, the Dane County Regional Plan Commission, which is today's CARP-C, approved the Village of Oregon's request to establish an urban service area encompassing 345 acres of DOC property in the city of Fitchburg. So that's what you see in that yellow bordered area. This proposed urban service area amendment would be directly to the east, highlighted in the bluish color of the existing urban service area. And as noted, it would allow the Village of Oregon to provide sanitary service to the proposed juvenile facility and also to the Grow Academy. You all approved a conditional use permit in 2025, also CSM in 2025, and then for the DOC's proposed juvenile facility. In May of this year, Common Council approved a water service agreement between the Village of Oregon, the City of Fitchburg, and the Department of Corrections. That agreement allows the Village of Oregon to provide municipal water service to the DOC property. Public Works and staff are coordinating the preparation of a similar agreement between the Village of Oregon, City of Fitchburg, and the DOC to provide the sanitary service. So that's kind of working in the background. And so what staff is working with the Village of Oregon, what planning staff is working on with the Village of Oregon and the DOC is this urban service area amendment. And I was able to put in the bulk of the application materials that we're preparing to move this forward. So staff does recommend approval of this. This resolution will just give the okay for staff to go ahead and submit the application to the Capital Area Regional Plan Commission. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any question, comment?
What's the little notch on Highway M there?
Oh, it's a single-family house.
One single-family house that's getting cut out of it?
For right now, this is a limited sewer service just for the DOC properties right now.
That one house would stay on well and septic.
For the time being, yes.
Maybe they don't want to pay the connection.
Do they know what's coming? I guess this is my next question.
Well, and that is one of the things in my department report. Staff is also working with the Village of Oregon and the Capital Area Regional Planning Association to do some master planning down here along M and 14, with the expectation that we would develop a neighborhood plan and then put in a cooperative agreement that would bring sanitary sewer to all of this area in the future.
Okay. This is kind of like a formality, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
I will move approval of resolution R-168-26 with no conditions.
No conditions.
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor of resolution R-168-26, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Next one is we are 5G, the last item in the agenda before H. So it's resolution R-160-26 is the farmland preservation plan map update.
Yeah. So planning staff has been working for all year long in preparation of recertification of our farmland preservation zoning ordinance. And part of that was an update to our agricultural zoning, which we did earlier this year. Plan Commission and Council approved those updates. Now we just need to make sure that our farmland preservation map matches exactly all of our AX or exclusive zoned parcels. And so there's a handful of updates that we're bringing forward in the farmland preservation map. You might recall when we did the farmland rezones earlier this year, we determined that the Bowman parcels on the north side would remain AX or exclusive ag, and so they need to be put back into our farmland preservation map. Then there's a handful of parcels that are residential or not AX that need to be taken out of our farmland preservation map. This was the Mark Jones lot that was created earlier this year, the Johanning CSM that created a small lot egg, and then last month we did 2 CSMs on Adams Road. The orange parcels are coming out of our farmland preservation map. The green parcels are going into our farmland preservation map. So that's what we have here is our farmland preservation map that we're seeking approval of this evening. There's 2 different colors of green. All of it is farmland preservation. The darker green is the long-term planning farmland preservation that staff expects would be more than 30 years. And then the lighter green are all of those parcels that are currently in a adopted neighborhood plan. And so those are just expected to be more of a medium term in terms of farmland preservation and could come out at a later date. Yes.
I have a question about the O'Brien property, you know what I mean, on Seminole. That is a dark green.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens if they want to incorporate to the service urban area, you know?
Then we will have to change the farmland preservation map.
Oh, we need to check, okay.
Yeah, we'll
Okay.
just change that. We generally take updates close to once every year through.
Okay, okay. Any question, comment? Here none, so please, I need someone to move this.
I'll move approval of Resolution R160-26, the Farmland Preservation Map Update.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of the resolution say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Okay, so next is item 5H, is a potential zoning update related to data centers.
Okay, so staff did prepare just a handful of slides as a bit of an introduction to our discussion. I'm happy to.
Is this available somewhere?
It will be. I didn't have time to put this up. There was changes still being made today, so we definitely can share. And as I walk through these slides, I would prefer that you just interrupt, and if I don't have the answer, maybe Mayor Radafrada have the answer. But just a handful of slides to kind of kick off our discussions. Current status, there are no data centers proposed in Fitchburg as of today. The city does not have any non-disclosure agreements. Staff has met with 2 to 3 entities interested in data centers in the Madison area, but there are no applications that have been submitted at this time. So there's nothing in the works at this time. Why are we discussing this now? Just to make sure we're committed to being transparent with the community, taking a deliberate approach. So having these discussions about a potential zoning amendment for data centers, creating some zoning standards that reflect Fitchburg values and interests. We can put together a zoning ordinance with a set of standards before we even enter into any discussions or have any applications, right? Before any applications. And then set clear expectations with an open process. So clear expectations for potential applicants, but a clear open process for our community. This is just kind of breaks down some of the types, scales of data centers, and it's just showing that there's some really, really big ones, large ones that have huge data sets, these AI training facilities, those smaller, non-AI, hyperscale, but very large, and then the AI inference facilities. These are smaller that run more optimized for AI models. And then the lowest impacts might be just co-location facilities, multi-tenant sites that have a more variable energy load. So I don't want to speak for the mayor, but I think we would be looking only in Fitchburg at these smaller kinds of facilities, right? We really aren't set up in Fitchburg to accommodate a hyperscale facility. Data centers in Fitchburg. Fitchburg does have a data center already. It's located at 5515 Nobel Drive. You might have heard the name One Neck in the past. It's no longer referred to as One Neck. It's now under the ownership of U.S. Signal. And I would code this as one of those co-location ones. It has multiple users. They might do some AI work, but they mostly do work for local businesses, banks, local universities, to help store and manage data. And it's right in our backyard. It was first permitted in 2007, as the team data center. The last rezone was in 2017. This project has been before Plan Commission several times, and even since I've been here, we've seen at least a couple of times the architectural design review come forward for a potential addition.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
You're going to cover this. I
Yeah,
believe that
of
we
course.
rent space in that data center.
We do.
Okay.
Our data is there.
Yeah.
That is right. It was built in 2008. It's about a 60,000 square foot building. It has about 5 acres with an additional 5 acres for growth. Right now, it runs at just under 6 megawatts of electricity is approximately what it does have 6 generators right now. Those generators are actually, interestingly enough, owned by MG&E. And MG&E can use those to feed back into the grid. I will just say, since I have been here for the last 4 years, we have not had any zoning complaints or issues that I'm aware of having this data center here right off of Nobel Drive. Today, actually, the development team, we have our Tuesday afternoon development team meetings that meets with potential applicants and developers. And that meeting just brings together planning, building inspection, administration, economic development, fire, public works. And we did meet with US Signal. They are interested in doing an expansion on their facility. I want to just talk a little bit about some of those zoning standards for the US Signal site. Right now, there's no specific requirements in zoning, the zoning requirements or standards for electricity or water. There are specific requirements for noise. So all of these equipments, the chillers, the air handlers, and the similar equipment, they operate 24/7. So even in 2007, when the original permitting came through, there was significant concern about the noise. And in particular, the noise at the Quarry Hill residential property line. And at that time, it was agreed that noise levels from this facility could not exceed 42.5 dBA at the nearest property line of the Quarry Hill residential neighborhood. There's also some more specific requirements related to those generators that I mentioned that are owned by MG&E that actually feed back into the grid. These are also some more stringent requirements for those backup generators in terms of sound levels. And then also the zoning noted that those MG&E generators have to meet or exceed all air quality standards of the state and federal requirements. So the existing zoning didn't set particular air quality standards. What it did is just say that you must meet or exceed all of the existing state and federal regulations.
Are the sound restrictions here in that first point specific to this project, or is that based off of existing policy?
No, it's not based off of existing policy. It's specific for this particular property.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. But good question. Any other questions about
How did we come about needing to do this for this one?
I'm just going to look at Miranda. I wasn't here for the discussions. I know that the files are huge. I know that the Quarry Hill neighborhood was actively involved in setting these numbers.
Okay.
Where exactly these numbers came from, I cannot speak to.
What is our current policy on noise again for just general projects?
65 dBA.
At any residential boundary?
At the property line of the
project.
The making. Oh, yeah, at the property line. Mm-hmm.
And they're looking at expanding with the same type of data center? Or are they?
Yes, well, similar. I think, I don't want to get too far in the weeds because they are looking at doing a slightly different cooling system. They are looking to add more generators, and it would be, it's not going to be larger in scale, but it's going to be larger in energy use. And that's because, and I think that the way that they kind of explained that to me, if you had a box of computer equipment this size 20 years ago, it would use this much energy. That box today will use this much energy. And so that's why. Any other questions about that?
Will any addition be governed by the same policies we're seeing here?
This is what. Wait.
Okay, sorry. You can keep going with that.
we're working through that. But the long and the short of it is, yes. How we're going to go back through the permitting process is a little bit open right now. The long and the short of it, this standard will apply. I fully believe. Based on our discussions this afternoon, I'm not sure that the proposed generators will be electrical backup generators to the grid. So, as the zoning is currently written, these standards really wouldn't apply. And so I think we're going to have some new standards. Does that make sense?
Yeah. When you say that we are not set up for a hyperscale type of data center, what's that based off of?
I go back to our urban service area again. So usually with the hyperscales, they might need hundreds of acres. Or even 1,000 acres is my understanding. We do not have any land areas within our urban service area today that could accommodate a hyperscale facility. There isn't. I can already tell you. There's no vacant parcels. Probably our largest vacant parcels might be 50, 60, and there's only a handful of them, 50, 60 acres. In order to do a hyperscale in Fitchburg, we would have to fundamentally change our comp plan and to allow expansion outside of our future urban development areas. You all remember our future urban development areas. And to expand our urban service area and expand urban development beyond our FUDAs and beyond a neighborhood plan. So in order to expand our urban service area, as we talked about, other than our kind of limited one for the DOC, we need to do a FUDA. We need to establish the FUDA. And then we need to do a neighborhood plan. And then we could go and talk about doing the urban service area amendment to bring that in.
So if an individual landowner or a small group of landowners came in front of us with the proposal that they wanted to sell to a hyperscale developer, we would have to take all of those steps before that would be allowed.
We would.
Yeah. And why does it have to be in an urban service area?
Yeah.
Because it's going to need to have utilities. It'll need to have city services.
They need to have the services, the water, the sewer.
Yep, they'll need sewer.
So this is what we are working to set up some guidelines and standards.
Great. Because I will say, just as a little context to this, MG&E submitted to the Public Service Commission to try to establish a higher rate threshold for hyperscale centers, and a known land prospector has tried to intervene in that process because there are already ongoing discussions to put a hyperscale data center on the east side of Madison.
Whoa.
So even things that we think are happening that may protect this or put thresholds on this within the county are not necessarily even going to fall the way we think they're going to fall. So I just want to reinforce that Fitchburg should be doing what we feel like is right in this situation and not relying on either utilities or the county for parameters around this.
This is what we are doing this.
Great.
So is the slideshow done? I didn't want to ask a question that's coming up. Oh, okay. Okay, sorry.
I have more, but
Okay.
like I
No,
said,
that's fine.
I'm
Go
happy
to the,
to.
go to the zoning and go to the,
Yeah.
what is in now, you know.
Okay, all right, yeah. So right now, we have 65 dB at the property line. I just wanted to have, because I'm the zoning lady, I guess, but I want to just talk a little bit about zoning. What state law sets the parameters of what we can put in a zoning ordinance. So not everything we might want can go into a zoning ordinance. It's very specific, tied to land use that can go into a zoning ordinance. So I'm making a distinction here that land use issues can go into a zoning ordinance. Business operations or how a business is doing what it's doing can't go into a zoning ordinance. And I can talk a little bit more as we go through. And then also generally, we shouldn't be putting regulations that are specific to other state and federal regulations, right? We don't want to double regulate. So a couple zoning considerations as we're moving through this process of discussion. We can determine where facilities can and cannot be located. So for example, industrial corridors, tech parks, renewable hubs. We can determine whether or not it's a by right permit. So that just means if you're properly zoned, you can build after your architectural design review, or we can require a conditional use permit, or I guess I should say we could have an overlay district or even create a specialized zoning district. I think from my standpoint of just working through this, probably a conditional use permit of some sort makes a lot of sense for Fitchburg, but these are some things we can kind of talk through what that zoning would look like. Is there any questions about that? So potential zoning standards, you can always these are kind of the standard things that go into a zoning ordinance definition. We could define that data center. This is actually going to be pretty important to actually have a clear definition. Thank you, you're shaking your head. It seems like it's like, why do you need a definition? A data center is a data center. But there's going to be many different variations that will come along. And so we want to make sure we have a really tight, strong definition. We can establish what's permitted in zoning districts. We can look at minimum, maximum lot size, lot coverage, open space, floor area ratio. Our current zoning ordinance doesn't do much with floor area ratios. Some do. And that just means the amount of total floor area in a building relative to the overall lot. So that kind of helps you understand how big and tall and how much mass the building has. Building height, bulk, mass, setbacks, parking, loading, landscaping, buffer, visual screening. So in thinking about data centers, we're probably going to look real closely at buffers and how that interaction with other neighboring properties. Those performance standards that we've already been exploring with the noise, something that we haven't, our current zoning hasn't looked at is more of the vibration and the feel, glare, dust, odors, heat emissions. And of course, we already work with this, environmental protections, floodplains, wetlands, slopes, and then reasonable architectural design standards so that we ensure any buildings can fit into the existing urban fabric. These are some additional parameters that are important for discussion, but they're here because we have to be a little more careful about incorporating them into a zoning ordinance. I really don't think we could determine in a zoning ordinance who the end user is, right? Or similarly, the amount of processing or the number of servers, or what kind of data is stored or used. That really wouldn't belong in a zoning ordinance. The amount of water used and cooling technology probably doesn't belong in zoning, but because we do have our own utility, we have a lot of control over the water use and how that's provided, right, through that mechanism.
So can these things not be included in the definition of the data center then? You talk about establishing a definition or tiers of what we're looking at.
Oh, that's an interesting question.
This is all the stuff I would want to use to define the tiers of data center we would want to regulate or a zone.
Yeah. I think it could. I'm not going to pretend I'm a legal specialist here. I think I'm just coming at this by being careful at what we're going to write standards for, or regulations for. But
this one can be additional safeguard that we can establish. You know what I mean?
How do you mean?
We can say, yeah, we have the zoning, but also what type of cooling system when they come to us.
If your
your
project fits this definition, it triggers a CSM or something
but
like
also
that.
we would like you to use this cooling system. What percentage of your electricity could be renewable? We can set up those parameters as more like a policy decision but I don't know how the discussion we have today with Diana, how to incorporate that in the zoning, but I think there should be guidelines.
Yes.
That
I'm just trying to understand where and when these things can be. Okay.
Communities that are doing this well have these private agreements before they approve.
And I'm going to mention that, I was we have 3 inquiries that people reach out to us for some site here in Fitchburg. They are a small and medium-sized data center, we went through, I have a list of questions that I ask about cooling technology, how much water you're going to use, how you're going to, recapture the heat that you're going to use. You know what I mean? All these questions we ask, you know what I mean?
Right.
So we are asking all these questions, but right now we don't have a formal format, you know what I mean, to have this is what we're going through this exercise,
And Gabriella, when you say private covenants, you're talking about an agreement with the actual developer?
I believe that. So I actually will forward you. Sustain Dane did a great sustainable breakfast series on data centers several months back, and they recorded it as a podcast that you can listen to. And there was a ton of discussion about the communities that are allowing these. They can basically require things like, we will approve this if you, and they agree to pay us $1 million a year towards our infrastructure. There's a ton of things that you can.
They're in the developer agreement.
Yeah, it's not something you could require in zoning, but it's something that you could negotiate with the data center before you agree to let them in. And a lot of them this is becoming more standard across communities that are allowing data centers, and so there's an understanding that can be part of the deal, and they will preemptively, or they will work to agree to that because they want to position themselves wherever they want to.
One of the things that particularly I will say that we should never give them a cent in TIF money, because these companies have plenty of money.
Yep.
But some, there are some municipalities that are doing that, and I think this is ridiculous. But one of the things is TIF is out of the conversation. You know what I mean? So they don't need the money.
Is there anything else, Dina, on the slide?
No, just briefly, I just wanted to touch on those other regulatory agencies, the PSC, of course, and Josh, you already mentioned that MG&E has an application into the PSC for their tariff requirements and what that would look like. Air quality permits are Wisconsin DNR. PSC is also the grid and infrastructure, those kinds of things. And then regulations, the larger regulations of the use of AI, maybe sometime at the federal level. And then my last slide was, this is the second to last slide, but just a quick slide about We Energy's tariff application that was approved earlier this year that is designed to safeguard those existing customers. They have the tariff term set at 15 years and then for 100 megawatt. And then they do have that requirement for any applicants to have a A credit rating. So. And then next steps is just our discussion about drafting a zoning ordinance. So that's what I got.
What is your timeline? Because, I mean, no matter what happens in November, the state is going to have data center changes to the law. So I'm just wondering what's your timeline here?
I don't have a particular timeline at this minute.
But I think the sooner the better, you know what I mean?
Can I ask a question? Do you think it would be a good idea to have conversations with Verona and Oregon and maybe some of the other surrounding communities of setting up an ETJ process where if somebody's putting one right on the border of Fitchburg, we would have to have the ETJ, the extraterritorial jurisdiction conversation? Because, if we're protecting our community, if somebody builds something 50 meters from where we are, it might not be a bad idea.
Yeah. It's a good point. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I second adding that to desired next steps on this. I mean, I would love to obviously see something drafted by staff and brought to this committee based on, best examples of similar municipalities or, I know the mayor has talked about some ideas that have already been floated or examples, and I think it'd be fantastic to get a chance to review and give feedback on that.
And, several of the municipalities in Dane County are doing moratoriums while they work on their zoning regulations. So I've had some conversations about this, but is there any thought to that, to just hold things in place while we're getting all these requirements in place?
Me particularly, if we are talking about a small and medium size, I will say we don't need a moratorium. This is my personal opinion. This is what we need to.
Is your belief that everything above that would be significantly restricted based on our current zoning?
I think people are talking about moratorium because they are freaking out about these big ones, the hyperscale.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So this is what they're, But I think, we have to be realistic, we already have one in Fitchburg.
Yeah.
Okay? Or maybe two, because they're private ones, like who knows what.
A small IT company or something like that.
They look
right?
more like a small data center.
Right.
So the question is, there is a map, you Google that, there is a map with all the data centers that they are under construction or private ones, and, and you will be amazed, you know what I mean? So the question is, how will we prepare to be data center ready if we have more inquiries, and we have one that say, we really like this site, we need to move forward, okay? So what are the guidelines? What is the zoning? Right now, we don't have that. But so this is what I said, we're talking about a small and medium-sized facility, less than like 50 acres, you know what I mean? Because we don't have the land, you know what I mean? So, but that's it.
I have heard, though, that there are some data centers that are, not the hyperscale, but they're getting together, and so they're making like squares. So they've got 4 or 6 or something, right next to each other, which could have I don't know if it has the environmental effect of a hyperscale. I don't know if the many put together is the same as one huge one, but yeah.
Most of the inquiry, the information that I saw that they show us is they look more like a office space. You know what I mean? This is what they look like.
Things can look like a lot of things. I'm not worried. I'm not worried about what they look like on the outside. I'm worried about what's going on
I know,
inside.
of course.
Yeah.
And this is what we need to set up. What are the safeguards to protect the environment? All of that stuff.
Yes.
So that how they, if they are going to recapture the heat that they emit. You know what I mean? Because some of them they don't do that, but we can require that they need to recapture the. There's plenty of things that we can protect the city.
Could we have a timeline for a draft proposal by the next meeting? No.
The planning department is only 3 people.
I understand. I'm asking. I like these next steps. I guess I'm just I'm trying to understand relative timeline.
Next meeting might be a bit of a stretch for us, but.
Sorry, I wasn't asking for a draft by the next meeting. I was just asking for a timeline on a draft by the next meeting.
Yeah. Well, I can do timelines.
Okay.
But ultimately, we don't have any imminent proposals for a data center, right?
No.
There's nothing like was
We're
set to
going to
come
have
forward.
to, I do think that U.S. Signal is going to want to proceed to construction next spring, but they're in this weird kind of grandfathering place, and I think what we're going to have to kind of work our way through this one without the zoning ordinance in place, just given the situation.
And nothing would be by right at this point anyway, right?
No.
Everything would come through for approval, so it's not like a data center would just come in without us having a chance to look at it.
I don't.
Okay. Just for clarification for the public.
No.
Like it's not like something's gonna happen without our approval.
No. Okay. Any other questions? Because it's already 9:14.
Thank you for putting this together.
Thank you, Diana.
Oh, this was mayor too.
Okay, so next we move to the report from the department. Oh, Bill, do you want to say something? Because you have this. Okay.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Bill and Micah, for listening. Report from the department. Any?
Miranda is here to give a short presentation, if you all would be willing to.
Okay, how short?
Real quick, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Don't be sorry, it's not your fault.
Where can I look up?
Right there on the next to that power monitor, HDMI cable.
While she hooks up, do you want to say anything else from your
Yep,
report?
I do. While she's getting set up, I just want to remind everyone that up until August 31st, we're looking for applicants to the comp plan work group. I will send out, I should have probably did that earlier, but send out a link too, so you all could maybe share if you know of anybody that would be interested in joining the work group for the comp plan. Applications are open until August 31st. And then we are scheduled for the first big meeting. That will be October 20th, and that will be a joint meeting between Plan Commission and the work group. We want to do that, maybe we're going to try to maybe meet a little bit earlier that day if schedules will allow.
Okay.
To bring the work group and the Plan Commission together for the first big kickoff.
Which date is that? Sorry.
It would be October 20th.
It's a plan commission meeting?
It is.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, and then we would be looking to start Plan Commission a little earlier that day if schedules would allow. And then our first big open house is on the next day. That would be the Wednesday, October 21st. Don't have a set time, but it'll be early evening.
When you have all that information, can you send us an email so we can share with
Yep, we can send emails. You bet. Are you set?
I am.
Wonderful.
All right, can you guys see?
So I guess I should just open up. Miranda's been doing a lot of really interesting work with data that's feeding into some of our questions with the comp plan. So take it away.
Yeah, so you've seen tonight, like I made a lot of the charts and some of the maps, and so I have more of that for you tonight. And this is a fiscal analysis, so I'm looking at understanding the relationship between property taxes and land uses. So I'll start with this first map, which is just straight up the parcels and then the taxes that they paid. And you can see, like, it kind of makes sense. You see dark areas where you would expect, like, properties would be paying a lot in taxes. But that doesn't really tell us much about, like, where we're doing intensive land use, like where money is good for, like, the amount of land that we're using. And so this next map is like a normalization. So what I did was I took the taxes, the taxes paid in 2025 divided by the acreage. So then we get taxes per square foot and then converted to square feet. And then what we get then is a more normalized version of the previous map, but we can see darker areas represent where we have more taxes paid per square foot. And that's really interesting to see. And it matters a lot because if we look at this example of these two different parcels, Renew at the Greens is about 20 acres, and they generated $150,000 in taxes in 2025. And their taxes per square foot is about 0.18, or is about 18 cents. And then the point at Terravesa is about 0.3 acres, and then $15,000 in taxes in 2025. But they get $1.20 per square foot. So we can see that it just looks so much darker here when we normalize. And if we think about like the development per decade that we do, like 75 acres of Renew at the Greens, like not that this would ever happen, but 75 acres of Renew at the Greens would generate $562,000 in taxes, but 75 acres of the point at Terravesa would generate, you know, almost $4 million in taxes. So we're looking at like how intensive is that land use, and then how much money are we generating from that land use. And so that's why we're normalizing. That's why we're doing taxes per square foot instead of just the raw taxes, because it tells us something very different. And then you can see the comparison here. So if you look at some of the parcels that were dark before, you can see like if they're very large, then they're not getting as dark when they're normalized, the taxes per square foot. So let's see. Why does this matter? Property taxes were the single largest category from 2025's general revenue. So we want to understand the variables that impact property taxes, and then understanding where the city stands now with land use and tax revenues, like what parcels do well and why do they do well. And then this can help us inform development strategies, ways Fitchburg can grow sustainably, both in a fiscal and land use sense. So if we look at some different land use types, these are kind of arbitrary categories that I made. Like we could look at zoning, but it's kind of hard once you get into like PDD because there's a mix of commercial, multifamily, single family. So I just kind of separated them out in a different way. Multifamily does the best by far, and commercial and industrial does the worst, which kind of makes sense if you think about like a Target or something might have a lot of land area, but it might not be like the most expensive building, you know? And then single family and duplexes do pretty decently, and then condos does kind of in between that and multifamily, which I guess makes sense. So I'm gonna get into a little bit of statistics now. I'm sorry. So the point of this analysis is to understand what impacts where areas pay a lot more in taxes. So why does multifamily do well? Why do some parcels perform really well and some parcels don't do really well? And so we're looking for variables that might explain that relationship. And so some of the variables that I looked into would be like categories, so multifamily, commercial, industrial, and acres, dwelling units, and year built. And so if we look at this table, it doesn't really matter, but the values here are R squared, which is basically like the correlation value. So if we look at like this in multifamily, 0.19 would be like 19% of the taxes paid is influenced by the category, if that makes sense. So what I have selected, what I have like darkened, are kind of significant. So almost 20% of the taxes paid is influenced by the category alone for multifamily. So we can see that like the multifamily is a strong indicator of having a higher taxes per square foot. And then the other one that was kind of surprising was that in single family and duplexes, year built was really strong. So it had a really strong influence on how much they paid like taxes per square foot. Almost like 40% is influenced by the year it was built. And then the biggest influence, and this probably is not a surprise, is like density. So lot coverage percent is like almost 75% influence. And I'll show a graph that might help this make a bit more sense. This is not very important. This one is the good one. So if we look at this, we see lot coverage plotted as the independent variable as our x, and then the taxes paid per square foot as the dependent variable. And it's kind of like almost a straight line, but we can see a lot of correlation between as the lot coverage is higher in percentage, as the lots are denser, then we see a higher taxes per square foot. And this is going back to, I also thought that the year built was really interesting because like single family was pretty strongly dependent. I mean, not to the same extent as like density overall, but it was really interesting to see that, you know, new single family housing increased so severely. Like newer housing did really, really well. Older housing didn't do well. And I guess that makes sense, but it was pretty extreme in single family and not really in any other category. And then this is just another chart I made that where we're kind of trying to understand why single family housing is so dependent on the year it was built. And we can kind of look at this dip here, starting in like 2006, right around the recession, when we stopped building housing, like especially single family housing, but the population of Fitchburg just continued to grow. And so there's this mismatch of housing where we should have continued to build housing and we didn't, and the population continued to grow, so there might just be such a high demand for housing that doesn't really exist to the scale that it's needed. So coming back to the taxes paid per square foot, if we look at some neighborhoods, we can get a better understanding of like how that density impacts the land use. So the taxes paid per square foot impact. So these are two neighborhoods, and they were both developed in the 2020s. They're both about the same acres total, and Crescent Crossing is a lot denser than South Stoner Prairie, and so it has a lot more dwelling units and a higher population, and the average lot size is a lot smaller. So keep those things in mind as we look at some of the different variables here. The population is like 2.5 times larger. And then, so keeping in mind that they're the same number of acres, but the population is much larger, the total home value of Crescent Crossing was $40 million versus South Stoner Prairie, which was $26 million, even though like the average home value was much less. And the average taxes paid per square foot was significantly higher in Crescent Crossing. So we're looking at 75 cents versus 31 cents. And that also includes areas that are like stormwater retention and public and like open space. So it's kind of impressive that it still performs really well despite including a lot of land that isn't paying anything in taxes. And then if we think about infrastructure, so I think the thing that kind of spurred this analysis was like, how well does the city's parcels pay for itself? And like, we can't really know, we don't have a lot of the numbers from like how much like water pipes there is per unit. But if we think about how many miles of like pipes we can get kind of a sense of like how the neighborhoods compare to each other. So keeping in mind that the population is much larger in Crescent Crossing, and also that the tax value is much larger, we can see that the total miles of infrastructure is larger for Crescent Crossing, but the miles per dwelling unit is smaller. So we're serving more people on less land. So some highlights. Yes, so the population and the number of dwelling units in Crescent Crossing is 2.6 times greater than South Stoner Prairie. But with the same acreage, Crescent Crossing's tax value was 1.7 times greater, and the average taxes per square foot was 2.4 times greater than Stoner Prairie. Crescent Crossing serves 2.6 times more residents with only 1.3 times or 1.6 times more miles of infrastructure. And so some takeaways from this, the lot coverage percent has the single largest impact on taxes per square foot. So like density really pays. Density did really, really well. Single family housing performs well in regard to taxes per square foot, but is fairly dependent on year it was built. I think there was some expectation that single family wouldn't perform as well, but it did pretty decently, all things considered. But it was very dependent on the year it was built. So if we're looking at like the multifamily, for example, it seemed to hold on to its value over the years way better than like single family. So if we look at single family that are built like 30 years ago, they don't retain that value in the same way that other use types do. So like multifamily is more of like a long-term investment than single family, which pays really, which doesn't do bad, but it kind of loses its value over time a lot quicker than other use types. And neighborhoods with small lots and more dwelling units per acre generate more tax revenue while housing more residents with less infrastructure per unit. And that's all I have. I know I kind of talked fast. I didn't want to take up too much more time than was needed tonight.
Oh, this is great. So thank you for doing this. Yeah. And if you can share this with all of us.
Can I just ask one quick clarifying question?
Absolutely.
For the taxes paid, is that overall taxes to all jurisdictions, or is that just the city of Fitchburg?
That's just city taxes, yeah. That's just property taxes paid to the city.
To the city, to our portion. Okay.
Thank you. Just wanted to double check.
So
Great
Anna,
work.
yes, and so Miranda, you are an intern in the planning department.
Yes, I am.
And when is your last day?
It'll be next week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
are you a student?
We're going to keep her around a little bit.
Yeah. So
okay, yeah.
I won't be here every day of every week, but Deanna's wrangled a little bit more time so I can stay on and maybe be here, a little bit into the fall, like a day or two here every month.
So thank you for
Thank you for that work.
Yeah. Okay, so we are at the end of the agenda. I don't know if anything else from the Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee report, transportation, any announcement that you want to share?
Nothing more than what was on the agenda here.
And TTC?
There was one, I actually missed the meeting, but there was one resolution regards to formalizing traffic impact analysis.
Oh, yeah.
Like just creating actual specific rules about when it always applies, but like when it applies and how detailed the analysis should be based on the size and the detail of the development. So that's was passed TTC and it will go to council next week.
Okay, thank you. I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor of adjourning the meeting at 9:30, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carried. Buenas noches.